This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Good afternoon and welcome everybody to a wonderful sunset safari here in South Africa. A special warm welcome to our 3 schools joining us today, the Academy of Academic Excellence. Let's hope that rings true in your academic records later on. Fairfield Elementary and Newcastle Elementary. Wonderful to have you all with us here on Safari. Please ask as many questions as you'd like to. All you do is ask them through your teacher. She or he will ask us, and I will do my very best to tell you the truth about the answer. My name is James Henry. On camera today we've got David, and David's just been on holiday. Can you believe it? So lazy. He's just been on holiday. Who goes on holiday? It's absolutely shocking stuff. Alrighty, that we started with was an impala. It ran away, probably because I greeted you with such enthusiasm. And so I'm going to talk a little bit more quietly now, because out here in the wilderness you need to be a little quieter than you might be otherwise. Our plan this afternoon is to try and find ourselves a leopard. That's the general plan here all the time, actually, because they're our favourite cats. Maybe we'll be lucky with a lion, and maybe we'll get an elephant. It's about 95 degrees Fahrenheit out here, which is about the same as the temperature at the middle of the earth. That's not really true, but that's what it feels like. And it is also my privilege to tell you that we will be joined in the Masai Mara as well. Now that's in Kenya, and so this live school safari is coming to you from 2 locations in Africa. Africa, of course, is absolutely massive. It is much bigger than the continental United States, and so it's very big. Gia, you want to know if I like working with the animals? No, I hate it. It's the worst thing in the world. I wish that I worked in a bank. Gia, that is called sarcasm. And I love working with the animals. It's wonderful to go out here. I don't have to sit in any traffic at all. All I do is enjoy the animals and this beautiful environment every single day. It's just too special. So there is our impala. I think it's probably the same one. He's a young... or not a young, he's quite a mature ram impala, and he's trying to eat himself some nice food because, well, it's been a very tough dry season, and we've just had some very nice rain, and that means that there's lots of green grass for him to eat, and that's what he'll be going for at the moment. I'm sure at some stage he'll also wander down to the waterhole to get something to drink. And of course, this is a nice time of the day for most animals because it's getting a little bit cooler, but at the same time it's difficult for them because they know that it's going to get dark fairly soon, and when it's dark, that's the time of the predators, the lions and the leopards and the hyenas, and, well, those are the main 3. Good. Let's carry on. See if we can get to our waterhole. Just going to drive past the waterhole. On a hot day like this, it's always a good idea because there's often something coming down to have a drink. Now, I said that we were going up to the Masai Mara, and so we are. We're going up to meet Tristan, and he is looking for a pride of lions known as the Sausage Tree Pride.
Indeed, you are being sent all the way up to East Africa and Kenya's Masai Mara with myself. And as James mentioned, my name is Tristan, and on camera I've got Manu this afternoon, and it is a very warm welcome to all of you. I hope that you're having the most wonderful time with us so far this afternoon, and hopefully we'll get to see lots and lots and lots of animals. Now, where we are at the moment is we're right in the southern part of the Mara Triangle, and we're trying to see if we can find quite a big pride of lions. There's 5 adult females in this pride, and so we're driving through these big open grassland areas trying to look for them. The sun has just disappeared behind a cloud, but it was quite hot just now, so what we're doing is we're looking under all the big trees. Now you'll see way in the distance there are some elephants that are about as well, so they'll start being out and about. Now that it's cooling down, they'll move away from the trees, and we're hoping that the lions might do the same, is that they'll stand up and we'll be able to see them somewhere out in the open. But those ellies are still very far away. We're hoping that we'll get a little closer to them. The nice thing about where we are at the moment is that there are lots of animals down this side of the world. It might look as though there's not that many when you look at this sort of open grassland, but just as we go over the ridge here, Down towards the border with Kenya and Tanzania, there is a lot of zebras and wildebeest that have been hanging around on that side of the world. So that's where we're kind of heading. Maybe the lions are there as well, trying to look for a meal of their own. So we're going to keep going on this very bumpy road. So I do apologize if the camera bumps around all over the place. It is unfortunately a little on the rough side on this particular road, but it's okay. We'll soon be on a smoother section, which will make life a little bit easier for us. Now the thing is about lions is you would think in all of this big open section it would be very easy to see lions, but sometimes they camouflage very well, particularly if they're sleeping on their side. So we're going to try and look very hard while we do that though. Brent has found one of the most beautiful birds, so let's send you across to him.
Well, there he is. It's called a grey-headed bushshrike. It is an absolutely gorgeous bird, and it likes to live around little riverbeds, and we're busy driving down a dry riverbed at the moment because we're looking for leopards. Good afternoon, guys. My name is Brent Leo Smith. I've got my good friend Sebastian on camera, and we're hoping to find you lots of animals on your very own school drive. Now, while you think of all sorts of good questions to give to your teacher to send to us out here in the African bush, I've got a question for you. So let's see. What is the fastest animal in the world? Quickly, get your answers through to your teachers. Let's see which school can get it first. Let's try and move a little bit closer to see this beautiful bird. Now, it's a predatory bird, and hopefully we're going to be able to see his bill. He's got a very distinct hook on his bill, and he hunts other insects, frogs, even snakes sometime. He's still there, but he's just behind the log. Ah, he's flown off now. Oh dear. Anyway, well, let's keep looking for leopards. So you can see this is a little dry riverbed, and it's a perfect spot for a leopard to be on a very hot day like this. There's lots of shade, there's little bits of water around from the rain we had a few days ago, so an ideal spot to be looking for a leopard. And the leopard I'm looking for, his name is Hosana, and he's a young male. And you see through there, Sebastian, grey duiker there. So there's a leopard's favourite food. You can just see a little bottom there. There's a little duiker, which is a type of antelope. It's not a baby, it is an adult, and it is one of a leopard's favourite food. So it's an even better reason for a leopard to be down here. Now, Miller was asking, how do we respect the animal's space? By driving carefully and respectfully. And most of the animals here are habituated to two vehicles, which means they've grown up with the vehicles around. And as long as you don't put pressure on them and chase them around in the cars, and you drive carefully and considerately, we are able to view the animals doing what they do best, which is being themselves. And you can see it's very, very still, very, very hot. It's about 95 degrees Fahrenheit, 35 degrees Celsius. So most of the big cats at this time of the day are going to be sleeping. Oh, hello. It's a little female. She just realized she can hear my voice, but you can see she's not running away. She feels quite safe there. She's keeping very still, which is one of her forms of protection, letting her grey color blend into the bush around her. Here we go. Carrying on her afternoon endeavors. And I think we're going to do the same. Now, I really like spending time in these dry riverbeds. There's all sorts of wonderful creatures. Not only the leopards and things like that, but we've just seen that beautiful bushshrike, a duiker. We might see some other antelope species as well. And I really like bird watching, so there's lots of very pretty birds. Now, I'm going to keep searching down this riverbed. While I do that, my friend James has arrived at a waterhole.
Yes, we are indeed. We are coming down to the waterhole called Tree House Dam. And let's see if we can't find some interesting creatures here. Ooh, there is one interesting, beautiful creature. David, there's a bright yellow bird over there. And it's known as a village weaver. And it's gone. You see where it went? I can hear quite a few of them calling. So I'll go back a little bit. I think it may have landed. That's called a village weaver, everybody. We get lots of different yellow weaver species. That's just one of them. They are very pretty. Now, I don't see him there. We'll just go. You got him? Ah, that tortoise, I'm afraid, is an ex-tortoise. Oh, no, it's not. That's a living one. Goodness, that's wonderful. So there goes what's known as a leopard tortoise. And that little leopard tortoise is walking very slowly along, doing its very best to get away from the open, because of course it's vulnerable to predators. Some big bird species like to eat them, and maybe hyenas or honey badgers. And so what he's doing is he's gone for a drink, and now he's going to go into the thick bush and try and stay hidden. Isn't that lovely? Very special. That's called the leopard tortoise, everybody. One of two tortoises that we get here. The other one's got a much more difficult name, and it's called a speaks-hinged tortoise. Can you say speaks-hinged tortoise? It's quite difficult to say. Speaks-hinged tortoise. Let's continue. Lara, the scariest thing that's ever happened on my job, I think it was many years ago when I was driving along and I had some people on the back of the car with me, rather like you, except they were actually here with me. And there was a chap on the front of the car, the tracker. His name was Elvis, and he was my partner as we were driving along. He would help me to find animals. He was very, very good at finding animals. And I tell you what happened was we were driving along and suddenly he jumped across the bonnet. Just jumped, and he was an enormous man. It was very difficult for him to jump. And he pointed like this and he said, "Mamba." And a mamba is one of our very big snakes that we find over here. And I looked to the side, and this mamba was reared up. They can stand up almost to 2/3 of their body height. And the snake was looking at me, and I kept driving, and then it was looking at my guest just behind me. I had this view of the snake looking and the guest looking like that, and thankfully the snake then fell over. Otherwise, it could have been very dangerous if it had climbed into the car or bit one of our guests. That would have been terrible. That was the scariest moment. There we've got another type of testudinae. Now that means that another kind of turtle, if you like, but this one is called the terrapin. So we have two types of these sorts of animals here. Shelled reptiles. One of them is a tortoise. The other is a terrapin. And the terrapin lives in fresh water. And the big difference between this and what you'd call a turtle is that a turtle lives in the sea. And it's got flippers to swim with, whereas this terrapin has got legs like a tortoise, and they're a bit better at swimming than a tortoise is, but they've still got legs rather than flippers. So that is the terrapin. See, there are quite a few of them popping their little heads up. Very happy that there is finally some water in here. You know, it's been very, very dry. But there's a lot of rain predicted over the weekend, which will be very nice for us. Taking a game drive very difficult, but it will be nice for us. Alrighty, let's carry on from those little creatures and hope that we can find something a bit bigger. I was hoping we might find some sign of a leopard here, but we didn't. So unfortunately, we must keep searching while you go back up to Kenya, where Tristan is still searching for the sausage tree pride.
Well, good luck, James. Hopefully you find your leopard lurking about at one of the water points. I'm not sure how hot it is today in South Africa, but normally at this time of the year, it's a good place to check is the water holes because it's a lot warmer than it is up here. But as you can see, we have a very big antelope that is walking around. Now, these guys are the biggest of the antelope that we see out here. They're called an eland, and you find them in both South Africa and Kenya, but not seen very much in the Djuma area. So where James and Brent are, it's not a good place for the eland. They occur much further north in the Kruger system, whereas out here in the Mara, they're quite common. So these are all females that you're seeing walking around at the moment. They are a beautiful, beautiful animal. They're very, very big. A big male eland, he'll get over a ton, and they're still able to move around with quite a lot of ease. They're very fit animals, so they can run for long, long distances, and they're able to jump incredible heights. So even though they weigh so much and they're so big, their ability to jump from a standing start is absolutely incredible. They are amazing animals to see, and it's something that I hope that we'll get to see at some point, because they do it every now and then just out of the blue. They'll just jump up and kind of do this big arch, and they can clear almost 2 meters from a standing start. Now that's incredibly high given their size, so it's amazing the amount of power that they have in their legs. Now you can see what they're doing at the moment is that they are slowly but surely moving across this big open clearing, and where they're heading is up towards the escarpment areas. So the escarpment is those mountains kind of in the background, a little bit more to the left is where the escarpment is, and they head up there, and that's where they often spend the evenings, is up on that sort of slope. Much safer than being down here with all the lions and hyenas and even leopards that are around. It's much better to be up there where they can try and kind of hope that the lions don't come up that area, although every now and then the lions will head up as well. But they're drifting off quite far. You also saw in the background there was quite a few zebras around, so as we start to head further and further south, so we're going to start to see more and more zebras milling about. There's still quite a lot left. We've just come out of we're just at the end of the migration now, so there's a lot of zebras that are still hanging about. Most of the wildebeest, which is one of the ones that are very famous for the migration, most of them have already headed back off towards Tanzania, as they do in this time of the year, but a lot of the zebras have still stayed, so there's thousands of zebras still around just to the south of where we are, and you can see it's a beautiful, beautiful day. There's this incredible cloud cover that we've got, and as you see, if we go towards the sort of southern section, there's going to be more and more and more dark cloud, and there's some rain as well. So you'll see that the rains are starting to come down, and this is very typical for this time of the year, and we're in the time of year called the short rains, and so you do get rain in the afternoons, and then you often get what is about to be shown to you right now, which is these beautiful rays of light that come through the clouds as the rain kind of starts to fall, and it's not very thick cloud. Then you get those beautiful rays that sort of start to come through, and a little bit of color as the sun starts to get a bit lower, that also comes through. So it's a very, very pretty down in this part of the world, and hopefully, like I say, we'll be able to keep the prettiness with the lion pride at some point. That's the idea anyway. Whether we get it right is going to be a bit tricky, but let's see how we go. We might get lucky. Good, but we'll carry on. Like I say, our elands have left us. They've decided they want to go somewhere else and go and do something. I don't know what eland do, but they want to go and feed somewhere else. They're not interested in being our friends today. They would rather go and do their own thing. Right, now I'm going to head further south. While I do that though, let's send you back across to Brent, who's got an animal that we were just talking about that is quite dangerous for the eland.
Well, hello, hello. We have a hyena who's lying in the shade on this hot, hot day. It looks like she's been having a mud bath earlier in one of the puddles I was talking about. And this particular hyena's name is Corky. Now, we even know the individual hyenas. Now, how we identify Corky is by that very distinct left ear. You can see she's got a big gash out of it. And if we look a little bit lower, there's a little dangly bit there that almost looks like an earring from another wound. Now, Corky is a very important hyena in our patch of the African bush. She is the matriarch of the Djuma clan of hyenas. Now, what that means is she's the boss, the big boss. So, unlike most other animal species where the males are normally dominant, hyenas, the girls are in charge. and she currently has a little baby who's at a den. Oh, Fairview Elementary, you've come in with an answer to the quiz. Is the fastest animal in the world a cheetah? Well, it is the fastest land animal. Oh, it's the fastest mammal, sorry. The fastest mammal in the world is a cheetah, but it is not the fastest animal in the world. Well done to the Academic Academy of Excellence. You are correct. It is indeed the peregrine falcon. Now, that is a bird, for those you don't know. You can even see them in big cities. There's some that live in New York City and eat all the smelly pigeons that fly around. Now, they can reach speeds of up to 390 kilometers an hour, which is over 200 miles an hour. And they've got a lot of very, very special adaptations to be able to do this, that most other birds would never be able to even do at half that speed. They have a very specialized lung, or they have very specialized lungs. It is a one-way airflow. It has a one-way airflow into its lungs, so it doesn't have multiple ways for the air to get into its lungs. And it has special air sacs that keep its lungs inflated even when they're breathing out. And a very strong heart that can beat between 600 and 900 times a minute to make sure that they get enough oxygen when the bird is going that quickly. Olivia is wondering, why is the hyena spotted? Well, a lot of animals have spots and stripes and things like that, and it's to help break up their outline. So you must remember, most animals do not sorry, I saw something in the distance and got distracted. What was I saying? Oh, there's a big yawn coming. Big teeth. Why do hyenas have spots? It's to help break out their outline. A lot of animals have stripes and spots and things like that, and their eyes don't work the same way as ours. A lot of animal species will see in black and white or grey and green. Not really black and white, more grey and green. And so a few spots will help break up the hard outlines of the animal, making them a little bit more difficult to see. Now, of course, our eyes work very differently to a lot of the animals here. But I don't think our hyena is going to be up to much. You can see she's very, very relaxed. Our hyenas love to swim, and that's what she's been doing for most of the day. And when she gets hot again, I'm sure she's going to head towards another puddle to have another swim. And I'll show you the puddle that she's been swimming in. So here is the puddle that she's been swimming in today. We can see her tracks over there where she climbed out, and she's not the only animal that has been using this. Yes, a little bit to the right. Sorry, left, Sebastian. That was my fault. There, her tracks are. And these little puddles are what we call pans, and generally there's a little depression in the ground that a bit of water comes in, and elephants and warthogs and buffalo and rhino like to mud bath and spray mud around. Well, elephants like to spray it, so they'll come dig it out and move the soil around, and slowly but surely over many, many years these start to become bigger and bigger till they can actually become big enough for hippos to be inside. But this is still a little one. It's in the process of getting bigger. Okay. Delaney wants to know why hyenas laugh. Well, Delaney, they don't really laugh as the human sort of understanding of laugh, where things are funny. Hyena, their cackles and giggles are more to do with excitement. So if they are excited about something, or they're trying to get each other excited about chasing a lion or stealing a leopard's kill, then they will giggle and cackle like that, and it helps build the excitement between the different adults. I'm just going to try to go this way, I think. And so they don't, it's not laughing like we laugh. One of the only animals that laughs and when it finds things funny is a chimpanzee. And if you've ever heard a chimpanzee laughing, it's actually very funny. So it sort of goes but chimpanzees laugh. Ooh, here's my favorite antelope. It is called a bushbuck, and they also like to live around the edge of river systems and that. It's a very pretty, dainty little browser, and we don't see them too often, so it's always a treat when we do get to see a bushbuck. They can be very secretive. Hello, girl. This is a female. The male would have horns. And she's going to sneak off into the bushes. And we're going to keep looking for leopards, as we've been doing all afternoon so far, but we haven't found any leopards, but we found lots of other things. In the meantime, James has found some very busy birds.
Yes, some busy birds. Now, these busy birds are the village weavers. Remember, we saw one earlier. He is a beautiful yellow bird. There he is, and he's building his home. Now, this is called the village weaver, and I know he's a village weaver, even though I can't see him very well, because he lives over water. He's just flown off, and what he's going to do is get some more grass. Now let's wait and see if he comes back, and I'll tell you a little bit about him. What he has to do is build that nest, and if the nest is good, he'll find himself a wife. But if the nest is not good, he won't find himself a wife. She will not come and stay with him if he's not a very good nest builder. Let me just quickly tell you a few more things about him, and hopefully he will come back. Now, the female, or his wife, doesn't look nearly as pretty as that. She's a kind of dull, drab, brownish bird, and I suspect there is a female, or probably a few females, lurking around here, wondering if this chap is going to be a good... Oh, he's back, there he is. If he's going to be a good builder and then a good father. See how hard he has to work? See how complicated that nest is? I bet even with your fingers you wouldn't be able to make something like that. I certainly couldn't. Beautiful. Now, the other bird that's going to be looking at this particular nest is something called a cuckoo, a Diederik's cuckoo. And the Diederik's cuckoo lays its eggs inside that nest, and then the weavers raise the cuckoo's babies for it. I think he went into the water at the back there, Dave. Now, you might just be able to tell or hear that there's wind starting to blow, and that's because it is summertime, and in the summertime we get a lot of storms in the afternoon, and often on those storms we have some birds flying in, and those look like very interesting birds actually. We'll just get David to try and find them. It's very difficult. Wow. That is a very special kind of a bird, everybody. It's a vulture. You want to know what kind of a vulture it is? We get lots of vultures, but this is a very special one. This one, if I'm not too much mistaken, is the white-headed vulture. The white-headed vulture. And they are very rare. Very rare indeed. Yeah, almost certainly a white-headed vulture. That's very special, everyone. They are highly endangered. Beautiful. Now, let's go back to our weaver if we can, David. The Alexis and Anthony are wondering how or what they make that nest of. Well, Alexis and Anthony, if you look at the weaver's nest, you can see they make it of grass. They find nice green grass stalks, and then they sew it all together like a basket maker would make a basket out of reeds or something like that. So they make these beautiful nests. They really are very special. And you know, you could sit down next to a little water hole like this all day long with a nice drink in your hand and perhaps some sandwiches, and it would be fascinating to just sit and watch him working away. And it would be the most peaceful thing to do. Quite like to do that now, actually. I'm just not sure that's going to be allowed. Oh, Jada, that's just one bird that we see here. I've shown you the white-headed vulture as well. And you know, there are more than 250 other kinds of birds that we see over here, from orioles to eagles to ostrich sometimes, to sparrows, to buntings and sunbirds and bee-eaters and many other different kinds of weavers and larks and sandpipers and lapwings and plovers and all sorts of birds like that. And in fact, what I'll do, just to show you how impossible it is for me to tell you exactly how they are, is show you, this is a bird book of all the birds in South Africa. There are more than 1,000 in this book. So just look at all the different kinds of birds that we find in South Africa, and about 300 of those have been seen in this particular area. Lots and lots and lots of different kinds of birds here. All right. Not always very easy to see, but there are lots of them. And our weaver continues to weave away. There we go. Still hasn't found a wife though, has he? Now that display that he's doing with his wings is not just to fly, that is to try and attract a female to his nest, to try and attract a lady. Oh, seems very windy now, you can see, with the storm blowing in. Beautiful. Now he'll also be looking for seeds to eat. Mrs. Hilton, there are a lot of leaves on some trees, but not many on others, and that's simply because we're just coming out of the dry season, and we're just going into summer, and so all of the trees are still getting their summer leaves. It does look a little bit dry from where you're sitting, I can see that, but most of the trees are now getting their leaves, and in 2 weeks' time you wouldn't believe how green this place is going to look. And it's almost impossible to think that in such a short period an almost dry desert scape can become so very green. Alrighty, one of the things of course that makes everything green is rain, and Tristan seems to be staring down a storm in the Masai Mara.
Well, hopefully not, James. Hopefully we're going to steer clear of it and not get wet, but let's see how we go. Now we're right where our lions were last seen. So the pride that I was talking about is 5 females, and they have got some cubs at the moment, and there was one female that was heavily pregnant, and so we think that she might have given birth, but we're hoping that we would find the pride. They like to use this drainage line on my right hand side, so this area where there's lots of trees, this is a good place for them to hide the little cubs, and then they can hunt on all the areas around here. And so that's why we're going very slowly along here, in the hope that we might spot some of the lionesses lying down somewhere, maybe even if the big male is around, because he's much easier to spot than the lionesses because he's got a big mane, and that makes it, you know, it's a little bit darker than what their coat color is. And so in this kind of grass at the same color as them, it's much easier to spot them. So that's why we're kind of driving very slowly along here. What's very interesting is that I was here not yesterday, the day before, and this whole area on my left here was covered with zebra and wildebeest, and today there's none. So I don't know where they've all gone. They must have moved maybe a little bit further south. Like I say, most of them will be starting to go south, down towards Tanzania for better grazing, and also for the wildebeest to go and give birth. It's their birthing season in February, and so they head down. Avery, you were asking if we might see a zebra. Well, Avery, if you'd asked me that 20 minutes ago, I would have said most definitely we will see a zebra without fail. There will be millions of them all over this place, but I don't know where they've gone. But yes, Avery, I think we will find a zebra if we just continue on the path that we go. There's a little water point not too far from here, well, a little place where there's a bit of water, and the zebras have been sitting there quite a bit. So I'm hoping I'll find you one there shortly. That's the idea anyway, Avery. I don't know where they've all gone. There was lots and lots and lots, like I say, thousands of them 2 days ago here, so I don't know where they've all disappeared to, but pretty sure we'll find some shortly. They might have all gone just over the ridge. Here is an area where there's a lot of very good minerals for things like zebras, and they often go and drink and will eat the soil from that area to get those minerals. And so they might have gone in there for the afternoon, and then they're still slowly making their way back towards this area. But I'm surprised that we haven't seen any here. Like I say, this was covered in zebras not that long ago, and so there should be quite a few around. But Benji, now, there we go, look at that. So Manu has spotted our lions that we're looking for. Excellent. Now, Benji, you're asking about lions and whether or not they sit in the trees. So, Benji, they can sit in the trees. In fact, here in the Mara, they do it quite often because there's a lot of little flies that are around that can be a bit irritating for them. And so they will try and then go sit in the trees and kind of get it out of the way. Also, it's a little bit cooler up there, particularly if there's a bit of a wind blowing. But how cool is this? We managed to find, well, the cubs at least. Now, I don't see any signs of moms just yet. We'll see if we can maybe spot them. They might be on the other side of this little, what we call a lugger, which is a little drainage section for water to kind of run down. And so you sometimes find that the moms sit on the other side. Now, I can only see one at the moment. There should be two of them of this size. So I don't know, the other one might just be down in the bottom at this stage. But at least we know that the cubs are still here, which means that the moms, wherever they are either out hunting and looking for food, which is always a good thing, or they've already hunted and found food. The other one is directly behind this one, apparently. Can you see it still, Louise? Because I don't see it there anymore. Let's just turn around and see if we can get a view, or reverse a little bit. Maybe they drop down. So when they're on their own, they're a little bit more shy of what's going on. They don't like to be seen as much and be out in the open because it's dangerous for them. So they will often then try and hide away a little bit to try and stay safe and out of the way of other predators. There we go, there the two of them are. So we'll just stop here for now. Now, Louise, just confirm, London was asking, why do lions have manes? Did I hear that correctly? Sorry, I went over a bump and it made a bit of a noise and I didn't hear that section. Yes. So, London, the reason why lions have manes is, or male lions have manes, remember that the females don't have the manes. The reason the males have it is for pretty much to attract females. So a male lion with a very big mane that is very dark in coloration shows to females that he is a dominant, very strong animal that is able to look after the cubs and be able to be a strong individual to pass his genes along. So the mane serves as a very, very useful purpose in terms of being able to show females that he's a strong, very big, dominant male lion. If it was, if he has a very small mane, then the females know that he's not the biggest that is out here, and therefore not the one that they should be trying to go for and try to mate with. And so that's the one reason for it. Yeah, it does serve a bit of a purpose in that it does help a little bit with protecting his neck area, but it's not the main reason that they have it. It's more to show females and other males that they are the dominant force. Other males see a male with a very, very large mane that's dark, and they're going to be very nervous, and they're going to try and move away, and they're not going to try and challenge that male. But if you see a male with a very small mane, then the other males that are around, they might then think, well, I can take over and will chase those younger males away. So big manes is always good for a male lion to keep its territory, as well as to be able to get a mate and to be able to produce cubs. Right, I don't see any signs of these females, which is interesting, so I just want to try and back up a little bit further and just see if I can see anything on the other side. Mom might be lying just down below, so we'll just do a quick little look in there. Well, it takes a bit of practice, and also you've got to eat your carrots. So if you eat your carrots, you will get better eyesight, and then you'll be able to see further. But no, it takes a bit of practice. Once you've been around these areas for a while, you start to learn that there's certain things that look slightly different than they should. And so in an environment like this, you're looking for a little change in color or any sort of sign that there might be something that is not quite right, and then you stop and you have a look. And so that's how you learn. And here we're very lucky in Kenya that you can see very, very far because of the terrain. It's nice short grass at the moment, and it's easy to see a long way. In South Africa, where James and Brent are, a little bit more tricky because you've got a lot more bushes and trees, and that makes it harder to actually see. Now, can't really see down. The cubs went into that sort of dark hole there, and I thought maybe, just maybe, the mom might be lying down here somewhere, but it doesn't look like it. I would be surprised if mom was inside here, because obviously the mother would like to rather kind of be out and be able to see what's coming, and to see if there's any sign of predators like hyenas or other lions moving into the area. So they typically don't really like to sit and rest in a gully system if their cubs are on top. So I don't think she's here. I think the cubs have gone down to try and hide away, and if that's the case, then we're not going to worry them too much. We're not going to stress the little cubs out and try and make them scared. So we're going to probably leave these guys and go and do a big loop around, because moms can't be too far away. If the cubs are here, then the moms must be somewhere close by, and so hopefully we'll be able to find them somewhere in this general area. I think that they might be out hunting. When you get stormy weather like this, it's always a good time for the lions to hunt. Good, so we're going to go search. We're going to go try to see if we can find the rest of the pride. While we do that though, let's send you across to Brent, who's also looking for a cat of his own.
I'm looking for leopards still. I'm going to actually head towards where I had a leopard this morning. A different leopard to the one I was looking for. And this one is a young female who's just over a year old. And her name is Tlalamba, which means playful. Her mom might be around as well, so we're keeping a close eye out. And in the heat of the day, we might even find the leopard up in the tree. Now, because it's often quite still down on the ground on these very hot days, and the flies can be a big pain to the cats, they will climb up into a tree where there's a bit more wind, sort of quite nice for them, a bit cooler, and helps keep some of the biting flies away. Hello, Miss Clark. Miss Clark would like to know, do each of the guides have a special animal that we each focus on? Not necessarily, but we've got to know we've all got our favorites, I suppose. Tristan, who's in the Mara, his favorite is leopards. Jamie's is hyenas, and she's not on drive this afternoon. My favorite animal is wild dogs. If they're around, I will only be with the wild dogs. But we tend to focus on animals we've been following for a long time. So I've been watching some of these animals for nearly 4 years daily. So we have watched leopard cubs go from this big into massive 80-kilogram males, and so it's always wonderful to catch up. It's sort of like catching up with an old friend. So Kalamba, who we're looking for now, she's the sort of latest of that generation of old friends. Well, she's the new kid on the block. And Wild Earth, who we're all part of at SafariLive, has been following the leopards of this area for 15 years, 15 plus years. So we've got a really good idea of their histories and where they come from and what they've got up to. Now, unfortunately, on my way to this leopard, I need to cross a little. Unfortunately, sometimes we have a bit of picture breakup. We are coming to you live from the middle of the African bush, which is a feat into itself. So I do apologize if I disappear. Oh, first European roller of the year. There we go. That's a bird that has come all the way from Europe, from France, Portugal, Spain, and is called European roller. So we get quite a lot of birds that migrate here for our summer to take advantage of all the insects that they like to eat. Now, he's a very pale blue bird. Unfortunately, he's sitting in a bad spot for the light. But normally once you've seen the first one, you start seeing quite a few more. Okay, well, we're going to leave the roller and head off towards where I left that leopard this morning. While we do that, let's send you back to my friend James, and he can tell you what is his favorite animal to follow.
I think I've lost my radio comms. I think we're live, aren't we? Hello, everybody. Have we finished school drive? Are we still on school drive? I completely lost my comms. We are still in school drive. All right, everybody, we're still in school drive. I'll attempt to re-establish my communications with the final control room. For the meantime, we haven't found a great deal, other than a lot of evidence of the elephants. There, I can hear you again now, Louise. Here is a very thorny tree, and you can see that despite the fact that it's a thorny tree, something's been eating it. Look at that. Something has chewed off the ends of the branches. Now that something could only have been an elephant. And you can see the elephant has pushed over the bush. Pushed it over a little bit so that they can get to the very top where the branches are also chewed. And if you're an elephant, well, you're quite lucky, because it just means you can push a tree over if you want to get to the top. But I think the most interesting thing about this tree is that it's got such very vicious little thorns. If you look very carefully, you can see that it's got nasty hooked thorns. There they are. Look at that. Now imagine putting your hand over that, let alone your mouth. An elephant is not scared to put its mouth over those thorns, which must be very, very sore. But not for them. They don't seem to suffer from the pain that we do. Jada, our last question from the school drive. The best thing about my job is that I get to wake up in this area every single day. I watch the sunrise, there is no traffic, as I said to you earlier, and I get to smell the beautiful smells and listen to the beautiful sounds of the wilderness every single day. All right, kids, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day at school. I hope that you behave yourselves, not too much, but generally, and we'll hopefully see you again on safari soon. Bye-bye. Righty, okay, for the rest of you, hello, yes, very nice to be with you again. We're going to carry on here. Let's go to the Mara, where Tristan continues to search for the sausage tree pride.
Indeed we have, James. We've got lucky, but they're on the other side. All the way around. A long long way now from where we saw them. Looks like they've just managed to kill something and have fed on it, because they got blood everywhere. So just going to try and get around. We saw 2 females and more of them on this side of the drainage. So we're trying to just get across, and then hopefully the cubs will come running, kind of to where they are, and hopefully they don't cross back on the other side, because otherwise it's going to be a bit of a mission to get all the way back across. But at least our instincts were correct, that they were somewhere close by. It's just a matter of finding them. There we go. Now we're going to try and see if we can follow this all the way along. It takes us quite a while to get to where we need to be. It's a long way around that we're heading. This particular road kind of runs along the drainage line. Is probably not the smoothest road to get all the way around, but we're going to try and use it as best we can. Exciting, at least, that we finally managed to catch up with the sausage bride. David and I have been looking for 4 days now for them in this area, and we have had no luck, no sign, nothing. And at least today, finally, there's some sort of positive sign of them actually being back in the area. I didn't least, and Manu says he saw a more on this side, so I didn't see any more when I was driving, but I was not really paying attention. Once we saw the first ones, I thought, well, at least we found them, we'll be good. But we've got to head quite far. We've got to go all the way back up to where we saw the cubs. They emerged not far from behind the cubs on this side, so I'm not sure what they've managed to kill. It's probably not very big meal, because their bellies are not hugely swollen. Their bellies are full, but not monstrous. Unless what they've done is they've had a little bit of a feed. They're now coming to fetch the cubs, and they're going to take them all the way back, and the rest of the pride is still there. So we'll just have to kind of see and play it by ear as we go. What's also fascinating about all of this is that there's actually a leopard denning here as well. So while the lions are keeping their cubs, the rangers were telling me that they found a little leopard cub here about a week old, about 5-6 days ago, right near where the lions have the cubs as well. So I know David had a sighting of a leopard actually stalking these lion cubs, and I wonder if it's not the same female that has her little leopard cub. And so it's a great place to be spending time at the moment, because if we can see a little leopard cub in the Mara, that would be quite something as well. Now we're trying to get all the way. We've still got a long way to go, unfortunately. It's quite a way round. They should be somewhere to my right. There they are, there. So yes, they're walking back now. I think they're bringing the cubs to a kill. That's what I think they're doing. They came to fetch them quickly, and they're now going to march them back, because you can see they've gone to where we saw them, and they're now moving back towards us. At the moment, you can see a little bit of panting as well. There's quite a bit of blood on the face. I don't see any of the cubs yet walking with them, but I wouldn't be surprised if we see little bundles of fur kind of bouncing around somewhere in that area. There's one of the males, so that will be one of the Eldonio Pike males that is here. So we'll just get a little bit closer. The kill might actually be right there, to be honest. It's just the way they were walking. It looked like they were walking kind of towards us, so I thought maybe the kill was a little bit further. But if the male's here, then I would imagine whatever they brought down is in this section as well. Oh, a bit of fighting going on. Well, it's good to see the sausages. It's been a long time since I've seen them. The last time I saw them, yes, they've brought down what looks like a buffalo. Well done. Both males are here. Oh, how awesome is this? This is so cool. Hello, guys. Oh, we've just missed this. I think if we had been here maybe an hour ago, we would have seen this happen. But they have brought down a rather sizable buffalo, and it is, by the looks of things, the entire pride. So the cubs have now joined. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4 females, 2 males that are here, and I think there's the 5th female might be still down back to where the cubs were, because we saw 2 heading off in that direction, and so they should all be here, which is absolutely amazing. And like I say, a really sizable kill that they've managed to make, and awesome to have both the boys around as well. And you can see they're very accepting of those cubs around the meal. I'm actually quite surprised at how sort of relaxed they are with the little ones feeding right there. But it really is good to see all of these guys. It's been a long time for me since I've seen them, and when just before I left, they were proving to be quite a handful to find. They were moving quite long distances, and from where they were when I was here last to here is a very, very long way. It's probably, I would say, easily 20 kilometers that they've moved, maybe more, 30 kilometers, which is a lot further than what we see from the likes of the Nkuhuma Pride. They don't quite move nearly as much as that. In fact, it might even be more than that. It might be closer to 40, to be honest. Carla, you say, look at the little cub digging in. I know, very cute, isn't it? So all of these guys will be on to meat now, and that's exactly what we thought, that they were going to kind of pull this, well, go and fetch the cubs and bring them back to a carcass. They're old enough now to all feed on meat, and so they'll be enjoying a taste of buffalo. It's quite convenient that they've managed to pull this down less than sort of 200 meters from where the cubs were stashed. But I'm a bit sad that we kind of, because we did a loop all the way to the northern side, because we had some intel that there was a pride that was seen on the escarpment, and we thought it might have been the sausages moving that way. So we went for this massive loop up there, and I think if we had come straight here, we probably in all likelihood might have even seen this whole process take place, which is a bit sad. But anyway, it's okay. It's still an incredible sighting to see, and the fact that everybody's feeding and everybody is here is very cool. And you can see the males haven't fed much at all. They don't have much blood on them, so this is a fairly fresh carcass, that's for sure. I think within the last maybe hour and a half was when they were kind of probably brought this down. But very, very cool to see, and amazing that they've got it, like I say, so close to the den. Now, the only female that I haven't seen yet is Kinky Tail. I think she is here. I think she's the one kind of at the back left of that male standing up. There's a female that's lying down who's got a bit of a tattered ear, which I think is her. So she's that one there, closer, but sort of between the male and the female in the middle. You can see her ears are quite sort of torn up and beaten up. So I think that's her lying there. And then I can't see who else is behind the boys at the moment, but definitely 4 females here, so the 5th one is not here at the moment. So, morning Glory, you said we just had a mini version of Ferrari Safari, Amara style. Well, I thought I was quite tame, actually. I was trying to rein it in and be quite calm and drive quite nicely. I've got Manu on the back, and we've got an Ascari with us as well, and so don't want to chuck them out of the back of the car. And so I thought I was actually quite reserved. I was going to drive a lot faster than that, but I thought it would be better if I didn't, because it is a little bit of a bumpy road. But yes, it was slightly faster than one should drive. Let's put it that way. You shouldn't really go too fast out in the wilderness areas. You never know. At least in the Mara, it's a little bit easier because you can see if there's any animals kind of coming, and you're not going to sort of bump into something. In Djuma, it's always a risk because you come around the corner and there's a whole herd of ellies standing in the road, and it can be a little bit more tricky to kind of deal with. But here, at least you can see kind of what's going on, so going a little bit quicker can be all right. But it's not something you should do often, and not something that I encourage anyone to participate in. If they do come out on a safari and you see your guide speeding, it's not a good thing. Like I say, many animals can die when you speed, from birds to little mice to things like servals and all kinds of others. Now you can see the one male is just doing a phlegm and grimace at the moment, so curling back his lips and sniffing. It's where one of the females was sitting and feeding just now, and so he's working out very quickly whether or not she's in an estrus cycle, who she is within the pride, and what his kind of intentions will be with her. So it's interesting to kind of see how that these guys have now taken over as the sort of dominant males within this grouping and within this kind of pride. When I left, it was obviously Kapuli and the 2 younger boys that were still with the sausages, and it's probably why they've moved so far to the west at the moment, is that they have come under control of these 2 guys, and therefore, you know, it's much safer for them with the cubs to be right in the heart of their territory, as opposed to being on the fringe where Kapuli and the other boys might come across and actually, you know, in some way maybe damage these guys, the cubs, and kill the cubs. Right, so Justin, yes, this is definitely enough meat for all of them. There you can see Kinky Tail now that she's up. You can see the little kink in the tail there. It's definitely her. She's got the roughest ears of the whole pride. But this is more than enough. You know, it's a buffalo is a big carcass, so all of these guys will benefit hugely from this. They'll all get a really good feed. The little cubs are going to look like beach balls shortly. They're going to get big, round, fat tummies, and the likes of the 2 boys are also going to eat a lot. And that's why there's not too much animosity amongst all of them, and why there's not growling or any sort of aggression towards one another. They all know that there is a lot of meat here, and everybody can really feed quite nicely, and they'll all be satiated by the time they've had a good kind of sit down and feed. And so everybody will get a good meal out of this. It's more than enough food. It's quite a large buffalo cow, and so enough for them to kind of eat. So Joshua, it depends. I mean, I've seen some instances where males have been quite aggressive to cubs on a carcass and can be quite sort of confrontational and bat at them and move them. So sometimes not a great idea. These two males look very gentle with them. I mean, there's been no aggression whatsoever. I haven't even heard a single growl since we've been sitting here, which is quite amazing, given that, they're all kind of feeding in quite close proximity, and you've got cubs and males and females. Generally, you'll hear some low sort of grumbling from lions when they're on a carcass, and this, we haven't heard a single growl from either of them. So, for me, they obviously have done this before. The cubs will be very, very, very aware of these males, and the females wouldn't bring the cubs to this carcass if they were worried about the males knowing that they're here. So, I think it's perfectly fine. You can see the little cubs are feeding. The male's not too stressed about it at all. He's kind of feeding around them. You might find when he really wants to get to a certain spot that he might really kind of growl at them, and the cubs will scatter. But look at this one little one that's... It's almost playing with the head of the buffalo. So it's jumping on it and biting it and pulling the ears and the face. Look. Now, that might look like just it messing around and not really doing much, but actually it is a very, very, very important skill that it's learning. So it's learning about kind of going for the nose area, and that biting and clawing and all of those kind of things as it gets older in life is going to be vitally important for it when it actually hunts things like buffaloes, because that's sometimes how they will kill a buffalo, is by grabbing it over the nose and just kind of suffocating it. And this particular pride seems to have really started to specialize in buffalo in particular, because they seem to go after them quite regularly. Back when I was here, we were seeing them hunting a lot of buffalo, and now that the migration is starting to leave, or has left for the most part, this side of the world, they have to feed on something else. And where they are now, there's huge herds of buffalo here that they can go after, and so it makes this perfect sort of thing for them to eat. And a little cub needs to learn how to kill a buffalo, and so chewing on ears and pulling ears and grabbing the face and biting the neck, those are all really kind of little skills that eventually it will hone and be able to get. I mean, part of it is because I'm pretty sure it's having the best time playing with a little soft ear that's very chewy and is perfect if there's a little bit of teething going on, and so you'll find that they'll go absolutely crazy when there's an ear. Particularly little cubs love a good buffalo ear. I know it's a bit macabre, and so if you are a bit sensitive to these things, then probably time to look away, but there is a bit of cuteness in there too. I know it's a buffalo ear, and it's obviously a dead animal, but it is very cute with little guys kind of chewing and going crazy on the ear itself. What I will say is both the boys are looking really good. This blonder-maned male that is standing up quite close to the carcass, when I left, he wasn't looking great at all. He was very skinny, and he was hobbling around and looking a little bit worse for wear. Whereas, now he's looking in fine condition. So both the boys are looking very, very nice at the moment. And, oh, Pinky Tail, why are you being ugly to the cub? It's just playing. That's how it goes, unfortunately. Right, we're going to sit here for a bit. We're going to hopefully spend most of our evening. In fact, we will spend our whole evening here. Who knows if hyenas are going to arrive? And so while we do that, back off you go down to the south with Brent Leo Smith.
Here we go. We have caught up with the little Princess Tlalamba. Still in the area where the kill was, but not in the drainage line. She was walking around with a little impala leg, or remnant of the impala leg, in her mouth. There, that's what she was running around with. Hey, pretty girl. I'm just waiting to see where she's off to next. She's quite the little busybody. She gave us a bit of a hassle finding her. We actually we went to look where we left her this morning in the drainage line where it was very, very thick. But alas, no luck. I'm going to try and move around to the other side of the bush for Sebastian. Oh, she's tired now. You're tired. Tired, kitty. You can see hot, breathing heavily. Always great to catch up with the little princess. She should be around this area till Mom comes back for her. Pretty girl. Cara says Tlalamba has grown up so much this year. Indeed, she has. And spending more and more time away from Mom on her own. Is she going back for her very, very smelly impala leg? Of course she's going to go behind us. Tom, you guys okay there? Is that where the other vehicle tracks went through? Sorry guys, just on the game drive radio. Alright, copy out. It should be fine, it's not too steep. Where are you off to next, madam? So, as I said, spending more and more time on her own. And she will be independent in a few short months. Of course, she always likes walking behind the car. She might flop down in the shade. Okay, well, while we wait to see where she goes next, let's go across to James Hendry at Buffelshoek Dam.
Yes, the great Buffelshoek waterhole has now got 6 molecules of water in it, which is wonderful, and it means that I have a few things to tell you about. The first thing, of course, is the grey heron, which is attempting valiantly to find a meal. Now, a feech it is not going to find in there, because we have not had feech in here since the original dry out of 2015, the great Christmas of 2015, when the feech disappeared along with all the water, and they have not returned. So I suspect what he's looking for is frogs, hoping that a frog or large tadpole will come past, and then he or she will spear it or grab it with its very powerful striking beak. Then the next thing I have to tell you, once you have completed your appreciation of that heron, excuse me, I'm just going to turn the game drive radio down because people of very limited intellect are yakking away at it for no good reason at all. Okay, I'd like you to look at the mud. Now, the last time I was here, just before it filled up, of course, it was a sort of dry and cracked landscape. And now you can see that even though there isn't water covering all of those cracks, they have kind of expanded a bit. Now, that is most likely because of the salts in the clay that have gone into solution, right? So they've gone into solution and they are causing that clay to repel and sort of become less I guess less attached to itself. It is also just filling up with water, which is by default going to make that clay kind of swell slightly. Good. So that's two things I can tell you about Buffelshoek Waterhole. It might be the only two things, except I think I may have just seen a three-banded plover on a nest. Did I see that? I certainly saw a three-banded plover sitting. I think it's on a nest. Darv, can you see it there? Just keep zooming in there. That's, no, around there though, you're almost at the right place. Just in front of that and to the right. There, no, right a bit. Keep going. There is the three-banded plover. It looked like it might, it doesn't have a chick there, does it? No. I think just a bit of plant underneath its foot. Oh, Philip, this is the question we ask ourselves every day. Will Scuba Steve return? I don't know. I don't know if Scuba Steve will return, Philip. I'm pretty sure that a hippopotamus will arrive here at some stage to check if there's water and be very pleased that there is. Whether that will be our old friend Scuba, I don't know. I'm just still looking at my three-banded plover friend because I'm trying to remember where it is that they nest. I think it's in the mud. I'm going to just quickly look it up for you so as not to tell you an untruth, because if I tell you an untruth I shall feel bad for weeks. Certainly at least 5 minutes. Three-banded plover. Here we go. Breeding monogamous, nest a shallow scrape in river granules or patch of pebbles usually, but not necessarily, near the water's edge. So mud, possibly not. Yes, Louise, you make a very good point. You say if it has chosen to nest there, it's chosen a very poor spot. It has, I would agree with you. I don't think that it has chosen to nest there. I've never seen a three-banded plover's nest. Right, well, I don't think there's anything else I can tell you right now. So I think we'll press on. We haven't seen any elephants at all, and they've obviously moved on. As they do from time to time, they go away, and then they'll come back at some stage. But we haven't seen much track of anything else either. But we shall keep searching. It is a gloriously beautiful afternoon. Maybe we'll be lucky. Brent has certainly been lucky on Taunchwood. And Tristan, in fact, has been extra uber, doubly lucky with the Sausage Tree Pride. But we, David, have not been very lucky at all, have we? No. Our time will come, our time will come. We're still going to pop sort of from waterhole to waterhole, see what's going on there. I think we'll head back towards central Djuma now to see if we can't find some sign of Hosana, the male leopard, aged almost 3. Tingana I have not seen for a long time, and I need to see him because I need to be able to shoot some non-live stuff with him. And, you know, so we need to find him quite desperately. But I just don't know where he's gone. Brent said he reckoned he went into Little Gari earlier today. Maybe he did. He probably did. A male went into Little Gari. Perhaps it was Horsana. There we have some crested francolins. One of the most underrated birds in all the world. Look at that. Their colours are so pretty in the light. These ones are very peaceful little francolins, searching out the odd bits of sort of insect life, shoots, seeds. Louise says their colours so pretty, but their call so deeply abrasive. It is, I agree with her. It is very abrasive, especially if you're trying to wake up gently after a Christmas party. Well, then they can be extremely abrasive at 0500 on the one morning you've been allowed to sleep in. Righty, I just want to quickly check on there. Yeah, I thought so. They do have a little bit of insect diet in summer. Oh, okay, no, this is interesting. So in winter, primarily they're eating corms, bulbs, green shoots, fruits and berries in non-breeding season, but changing to an insect-dominated diet in the summer. I think that goes for a lot of the so-called seed eaters and nectar eaters. If the rich nutrients of insects are available, then they will definitely eat those. Right, from this very peaceful little domestic scene, let us go to the ferocious Kalamba.
The terror of Franklin herself. Little Kalamba. So she's busy, but it's too hot to be too busy, so she keeps resting up every now and then. Look at her ears, constantly alert. Isn't she absolutely gorgeous? Very, very warm, very, very relaxed. Isn't that awesome? Now, Thandi, I'm pretty sure, is off patrolling, doing all her scent patrols, doing all her scent markings now after the rain, trying to make sure that no other leopards sneak into her territory. And as soon as that impala carcass they were eating yesterday was nearly finished, Thandi disappeared. Now, she probably will take Kalamba to a couple of more carcasses, but as we know, it is nearly time for the little princess to go out on her own. You've got a thorn tree stuck next to your head. Yes, there, you move it. Is that a thorn tree? It looks like it's got thorns. Yes, it does definitely have thorns. Looks like it's a little buffalo thorn branch. And it's got stuck to her. Still very alert. Shannon is wondering at what age will she start having her own cubs. Well, Shannon is a general rule between 3 and 4 years old, but some leopards have been known to have cubs at as young as 2, just over 2 years old. But normally it's closer between 3 and 4 years old. What you? Such a busybody. And she's watching the other game drive vehicle that's here. Still biting the thorny stick. And you can see there where she gets her name from, Kalamba, the playful one. Well, she's probably been sleeping for quite a while today. Oh, itchy head. Puma is wondering, do I think Kalamba might have to compete with Nkanyeni's cub for territory? I'm not sure. I think they're about the same age. It's definitely a possibility. But I don't know. We don't know enough about Nkanyeni's territory outside of the Sabi Sands in Kruger, how big it is there. So I think for now, if she stays in this central Torchwood area, she should be safe from other females. I can hear a squirrel alarming just to the north of us, and it could be Thandi on her way back. It might just be a bird of prey. It's a little bit far away. Where are we off to now, Hora? Now, judging from the size of her belly, Thandi definitely got the majority of that impala kill. Isn't she absolutely gorgeous, the little Shalamba? Thandi has a habit of leaving her cubs to independence quite a lot younger than certain other leopards. And she's been relatively successful in terms of raising cubs. Not quite as successful as her mother, but infinitely more successful than her littermate, Shadow. Shadow was not a very good mother. The only cub Shadow got to adulthood was Sindile, and he went to jail for a while because he ate a dog. And I don't mean jail, of course. I mean he went to quarantine to make sure he didn't pick up rabies from the dog. The dog had rabies, and he went on a course of treatment and had to live a bit far away, and then was released back into the Sabi Sands. And we saw him a few times after he was released. I'm not sure where he is now. Does anyone know if little Sindile has been seen somewhere? Have you guys seen any photographs? Let me know. #SafariLive. Tears from a Dream is wondering, why doesn't Kalamba have a pink nose? I thought all young cats have pink noses. That is a bit of a fallacy, because I know old cats that have pink noses and young cats that don't. So, as a general rule, normally the younger the animal, the pinker the nose, but it is by no means a hard and fast rule. Fancy Cheetah is wondering, do leopards ever take their cubs with them when they're doing scent marking or territorial patrols? Not as a general rule. They might do some scent marking while the cubs are with them on their way to a kill, or if they're moving them from den sites, but they don't generally take young leopards on long patrols and scent marking patrols. It would just add risk. Well, the little princess is reclining in the shade. Let's send you back to see what Mr. Hendry is up to now.
I'm still desperately trying to keep up with my colleagues and failing dismally to find anything. I haven't found a kudu, I haven't found an impala, I found a steenbok, very pregnant, and obviously it ran away. It didn't behave like a stone at all. It behaved like a rocket buck. And so I really don't have a great deal to tell you of biological significance at this stage. I'm starting to feel very sorry for myself, but hopefully in the next hour and a half or so we will come right. Ooh, here's something to tell you. Now I warn you, I don't want you to get overexcited here, everybody. Don't get overexcited, okay? What I'm going to show you now is so beyond astonishing that I suspect those of you who have dicky hearts, well, I'm not sure that you should even be watching this segment. I think it's quite possible that you should look away for what I'm going to display to you now. David, are you ready? Those of you with dicky hearts, I did warn you. Disclaimer. A termite mound. And what is interesting about this termite mound is that it is freshly being rebuilt in the new season. And I want to see if I can extract a termite. There's not a lot of warmth coming out of it. But all of this new growth comes as a result of rain. And so the termites have kind of come out of their winter dormancy and they've started to rebuild their mounds. There, you can see that there. Now, I know that for many of you that would have been so startlingly exciting that you'll be struggling right now to climb back onto your seats. Take it easy. I promise not to give you a shock like that again during the course of this drive. Okay. I always just think that's quite a nice thing to see because it's a sign of new life, which I think all of us quite like to see. Ooh. Can't bring that camera. Yeah, but you can't see there's a daddy long-legged spider living inside here, a whole lot of them actually, with the termites. I wonder if I give me a second, give me 1 second, give me 1 second. See if I can just get it on this. It's quite amazing. Oh, yes. It'll give you some idea. I don't think you'll be particularly blown away by what I've now produced, but we can give it a try. David, are you ready? Are you going to be so amazed? Perhaps, yes. Let's hope nobody sends me any dirty messages while I'm showing the video. Why? Hang on a second. Where's that function? Okay, there we go. Right, are you watching? Ready, David? Yes. Now, what you can see there is the termites. I didn't remember I was narrating this. The screen is a bit dark. Shall we play it again, David? Because it's a remarkable video. It really is. I'm just going to turn the sound down so that I can narrate through it without having to listen to my voice. So you can see that the termites, and you can see the spider there, and you can see that the termites and the spider seem to be living very happily next to each other, which is unusual, of course. I don't know how unusual it is, but it is quite cool. Okay, shall we carry on, David? Yes, not quite a Columba sighting, but we'll carry on doing our best.
Sorry, I'm having trouble with the connection. Please try again in a moment.
Shut up. Sorry. Lauren, please may I have that comment again? Yes, I know. I have no doubt you were, Lauren, losing it with excitement at my termite mound. So was I. Barely able to contain myself. I can tell you what, 10 years from now, there's no ways I'll be putting my heart through that kind of thing. It's a young man's job, that. Lily, I'm not sure that they're not snacking on the odd termite, but they're certainly not eating a lot of them. The termites are building the mound around the spiders. And I suspect the spiders have set up there quite possibly to try and catch the odd one, maybe even catch the alates as they come out. But I don't know how long they'll last before the soldiers have a go at them. I'm not sure. But I'm not sure if termites would notice if one or two of their number went missing, you know. They were all trooping up, carrying a bit of sand in their mouths, thinking to themselves how awful their lot in life is. I don't know if they'd notice if Jerry got knocked off the back by a spider. You know, they'd go back down, fetch another piece of sand. Maybe they think Jerry's gone to the sick bay, or he's gone to get some water, or go to the loo, or something like that. And by the time they get back up, well, then they don't even remember who Jerry was. Such is the mind of the termite. I think. I might be wrong. Siri is always trying to steal my thunder. You're absolutely right, Jasmine. Siri, why are you trying to steal my thunder? I have no signal to the internet now, so Siri can't answer that question. Useless individual. Yeah, Siri probably just decided that she couldn't right then get any signal. Right, we've come back down towards Galago Pan and the dam cam. The reason we will not see anything at the dam cam is because Conrad is there now trying to fix the dam cam with about 34 people. Yes, how many engineers does it take to fix a dam cam? The answer, 34. Now, what we're going to do is give you a view of them. Louise has requested this. There they are. There we go. Yvonne is now waving. Conrad is waving. Conrad's brother behind him is going to get a thorn in his foot and possibly be bitten by a puff adder, especially if he keeps walking backwards without watching where he's going. And I'm sure many of you will be thrilled that the dam cam is going back up. Well, let's not speak too soon, of course. The dam cam doesn't look like it's making its way up the tree just yet. It looks like our extremely efficient German friend Yvonne is typing away on her computer to see or make the dam cam work. That's a very interesting angle there that Conrad's brother is filming, wouldn't you say, David? That's quite bizarre. All right, let's move on before we see something else. Okay, so we'll go round to the Galago Pan and see if there's some animal life there. I wonder if he knows he was on screen. He will when he gets back. Oh, look at this, David. Can you actually believe it? Wait 1 second. Let me position the car. Let me position it in a perfect position for this highly unusual sighting. Here we have, everybody, impala, if you can believe it. Of the 300 or so thousand that occur in the Kruger National Park, we have managed to find some. Now, Louise apparently is not interested in impala, so we're going to go back across to Tulamba. In 1 second, over there, there's a very pregnant female. She's going to give birth. That one there. That one there. All right, you can go to the leopard now.
Well, Tulamba is probably doing a lot less than the impala at this time of the day. And she's actually gone down into the mud where a little puddle is dried up to try cool down a bit more. She's lying right where there was water. And back to Dudu. Carla is wondering, do I think Columba will be a small and petite leopard like Tundi? I don't think she's going to get too big. She might get to a little bit taller than Tundi, I think. But she could. I don't think she's going to be a very big female like Shidulu, for example. But at the moment she is very, very, very relaxed. James Henry sounds very grumpy on the radio and he's calling me. Go ahead, James. I'm not sure what he wants. What does James want? James, I'm standing by. Wonderful, thank you. I shall depart from this area. So James has found Hosanna, who I need to do catch report stuff on, which is a project we've all been working on. So we're going to leave little Kalamba because I do not need her anymore. Shame, poor little Kalamba. And I'm going to head towards James, who has found Hosanna. So why don't you go have a look at Hosanna with James while I make my way towards Hosanna.
Now this is very exciting, everybody. We've got Hosanna. He's coming straight towards us. And this is the first time we've seen him since he had his little altercation with the leopard, at least with the lion. Now Jamie thought that his tail had been chopped off by the lion, but that is not the case. His tail is in full condition, so I don't know what bit of hair they got off him. Maybe it was another leopard. But that's definitely not this fellow. Go. I'm just on the Game Drive radio, everybody. Copy. One of you can make your way straight here. I'm going to swap out with Brent when he gets here. So I will swap out with Brent because he's got to do some non-live filming as well. Sorry, I'm just quickly, once last transmission on Mvubu Road. He's a very thirsty fellow. I see no damage to him whatsoever. So for those of you who don't know, he had a little altercation, we think, with, a lion. And there were tracks and there was fur. There's a little bit of fur missing from his back left leg. Hosanna, why drink from here? He's basically drinking sand. I don't think we'll get a much better view, everyone, so we're going to just... no, we're not. Let's go. Let's move closer. There are some impala alarming at him as well. There's a little bit of fur missing from his back right hamstring. The impala still telling him that they can see him. It's so nice to see him again, much like all of us here. You're very relieved to see him. because we haven't seen him since his little altercation with the lion. Lots of alarming going on. A squirrel, there's a Birchall starling. Hosana unaffected, panting away. He's very hot, needs some water to replace all the water he's lost panting. When you see a cat like this drink, it's very difficult to believe that in large parts of the world, or large parts of their range, they are water independent. They don't have to drink. You can hear the birds going. Groop, groop, groop. Shrivant, I don't think the Sabi Sands is necessarily more desirable to leopards than other areas of a similar latitude in the Kruger. The Sabi Sand is rich in leopards, or rich in leopard viewing, for a few reasons. One is that people have been driving around here looking at them for the last 30 years, and it's become, in fact 40 years, and it's become a speciality. And so every lodge in the Sabi Sands invests a huge amount of time in habituating leopards and their cubs. So that's one of the reasons. And there's a very thick network of roads. There is a very thick network of tourism lodges, which means that there are a lot of people out looking for leopards every single day. And that's one of the major reasons that we see so many of them. Then, the second thing to say is that it's predator dense or prey dense because of the Sabi River, the Sand River, and the amount of water that is pumped in the northern parts. There is a high density of leopard prey, impala, steenbok duiker, but impala predominantly, especially at this time of the year. Now, if you go further south in the Kruger, where it rains even more, what you will find is that the density of leopards is probably the same, if not more in some places, but because there isn't the same amount of human activity, and because there isn't a sole focus almost on leopards, people don't see them as much, and so the leopards don't habituate nearly as much as they do in an area like the Sabi Sands. But you can see good leopards anywhere where they have been habituated. Parts of India, you can see good leopards. You can see them in other parts of South Africa. You can see them up in the Timbavati quite successfully. So there are lots of different places that you can see leopards. And Sri Lanka also, of course, very good for leopard viewing. And I think it's a real focus in Sri Lanka as well. And you can just see him. I mean, he must have drunk about 2 litres by now. 4 pints. Kathy, yes, the fur that you lost will grow back as long as there isn't a scar over the skin. The fur will most certainly grow back. So don't worry about that. Not a very pleasant afternoon we are having here. And we'll see where he goes from here. Will he go hunting? Will he perhaps go and lie in the shade? Which is quite possible. Yes, I think that's what he's going to do. He is now going to lie in that shade over there right now. And sit. Good boy. He's so hot and bothered. Let me move just a little bit. Just so that we can get a decent view. There we are. He's now salivating and dribbling, which is not particularly attractive. Louise saying, such a beautiful boy. He is a beautiful boy, but he is dribbling, which is not ideal. Now, this is going to be interesting. There's another car trying to get into the sighting. I'm not sure that there's space. And no, that's all fine. Yeah, I don't think he's any the worse for wear after his lion altercation. He's absolutely fine. CJ, I don't think he would. I mean, leopards do swim, but I've never actually seen one voluntarily do it unless he was trying to catch something. So I'm going to say no, I don't think so. It's not impossible. Certainly not impossible. Alrighty. I was going to take an illegal photograph, but I see about 7 kilograms of dust has managed to get into my camera and between the sensor and the lens. This is not very good. Now, everyone keeps wondering about whether or not he's going to stay here in his father's domain. What does the future hold for him? And of course, oh look, hang on a second. Look, there's the fur that's missing. That's his shoulder. Wait till he looks to the other side. Look at that. See that injury there? Yeah, iPhone? That's very interesting. Goodness gracious, that means that if the lion took that out of him, he was facing her. That would have made the potential experience he had with her that much more terrifying and that much more dangerous. Wow, doesn't look very deep. Can we get in? Are we as close in as we can get, Dov? We are now. It doesn't look very deep. Just looks like a bit of skin missing. Ah. Yes. So, I mean, the quality of this picture won't be as good, but you can see a fairly decent, or get a decent idea of what's missing there. Very interesting indeed. Poor little fellow, he's very tired. So, I was going to get back into the discussion I was going to have. Everyone keeps asking about whether or not he's going to be thrown out of this territory. Will he have to go and find his own way? Will his father allow him to stay? And of course, nobody really knows the answer to any of those questions, and it's going to be so fascinating to see. I just hope he hangs around for a decent amount of time, because if he does, and Tingana eventually shuffles off this mortal coil, hopefully not in the next 2 years or so, then it would be just wonderful if he managed to take his dad's domain. And while yes, there will be some inevitable inbreeding, it won't be a train smash, and what I quite like about it is the fact that we'd be able to watch him from, you don't get to do this with male leopards, watch them from birth until they are adults. Go ahead, Brent. All right, we're going to leave this cat now and let Brent come in and take over. We will try and go to Torchwood now and see if we can find his cat. Like I say, it is because we have some deadlines for some non-live filming to do, so that's why we're going to swap over here. We wouldn't normally do that, of course. All righty, thank you, Hosanna. You've been a magical animal. We'll see you a little bit later, hopefully not in camp, but close to. Am I going to drive into that hole, or are we okay? Apparently Brent doesn't have any signal, so you're going to stay with us as we get out of this situation. Not sure why he wouldn't have any signal where he is. This is the problem on his car. Anyway, that was a really nice surprise after the rather dire afternoon we'd had so far. Apparently there are also issues with the Mara, and so you're stuck with me, I'm afraid. Alright, let's go back to Tristan in the Masai Mara. He has got himself the solitary pride. He seems to be finished what he needed to do. Let's go across to him.
Indeed, you are back. We've been busy with all kinds of non-live things, so been a bit busy, but we are back and with all of you now, and you can see the males are very sleepy. He's passed out completely and is having a good nap. And then we've got, well, Kinky Tail. She's busy walking off at the moment. Sorry, that's my head in the way. She's busy moving off down towards the drainage line. I'm pretty sure she's going to go get a drink of water. I would imagine there's some water that's pooled up in one of these little dips that she's off to go and get at the moment. So she's disappearing currently. The rest of the pride is still busy feeding, as one would expect with a big carcass like this. They've had a really kind of good feed, and they've had a lot of food over the last little bit. There's been a lot of eating, and the cubs themselves have been full of nonsense. They've been tormenting some of the males and running, well, the two males should I say. They've been going up and pulling tails and manes and generally making a bit of a nuisance of themselves. They got growled at, and now they're sitting firmly in between all of the females at the moment. So they're going to enjoy themselves there and have a nice little kind of play around now with the females. Now I wonder where they're all going, because this one is now up and off too. I haven't seen Kinky Tail cross the lugger yet. She's still kind of inside there, so maybe this one that is limping is definitely heading in that direction too. So good old Limpy Lou, which is obviously all animals that limp these days are nicknamed Limpy Lou because of, I don't even know why Lou got that kind of name out there, but actually I do know why. It's a long story, but everybody is. Is Jamie also Limpy Lou? What happened to Jamie, Louise? Did she get an owie somehow? Hopefully she didn't. She's not too bad, and that she'll be okay. And it's never nice when you've got a sore leg. It can definitely not help with a problem with her big toe. This sounds like a kitchen incident, because we have a kitchen door that is lethal to one's toes. Oh, okay. Okay, now that makes sense too. I was going to say it might have been a kitchen incident, because Brent has been claimed by the kitchen door, and so is Jerry, where it's a sliding, heavy sort of aluminium door that slides, and it falls off its rail every now and then, and it just drops straight down onto your toe. It's off a little ledge, and so it can cause a bit of damage. But apparently the Christmas party was quite festive, and Jamie was in South Africa. We have this term called squeaking tacky. Now, when you talk about squeaking tacky or burning some tacky, it's talking about when you dance so much that your shoes make a squeaking sound or they catch fire and burn. And apparently Jamie was dancing, and she was dancing barefoot in FC, which has got a carpet, and so Jamie might have got a carpet burn on her big toe, and that is why she is limping like that lioness. That was a long story to get to the point of this whole thing, but anyway, that's kind of where we're at. But there you go. You can see two females are left with the little cubs, and they're having a really nice feed at the moment. The cubs are still biting everything that moves on this buffalo. If other animal pulls in it and the kind of skin moves or the ears move, and it quickly attacks it. So they've been full of nonsense so far. And I would imagine that's because they're around a meal. They're excited not only to be back with the adults, but also to be around a carcass and to fill those little bellies. And you'll be surprised how much these little ones eat. It's amazing how they just kind of keep eating and eating and eating, and they just grow wider and wider and wider. Now, it's been so nice to actually see these little cubs, because obviously it's the first time that I'm seeing them. When I left, there was no little cubs with the Sausage Tree Pride. There was cubs, but they hadn't been shown yet. Brent found them, I think, like 2 days after I left. So super nice to see these little ones with the pride, and to see them doing so well. Hopefully they're going to grow up, and this pride is just going to go from strength to strength. The problem is that with cubs, if they are successful, when they get to a year old, if there's 5 adult females and cubs, it's quite tricky to be able to kind of keep up with growing and feeding of those males, and makes it quite tricky. Debbie, why are these new males so accepting of the Sausage Tree Pride cubs? Well, I'm 99% sure that these males mated with the Sausage Tree Pride, and that's why they're accepting. They might even be the fathers. Even though Kapuli and the 2 young males were with the Sausage Tree Pride, it's quite possible that the females ended up mating with these guys. We once saw what we thought was a Sausage Tree Pride female all the way down in this area when they were still hanging out around just on the sort of eastern side of the Salt Lake in about, I think it was in about June, that we saw her mating with one of these males, and I'm pretty sure she's one of the mothers. I haven't been able to see nicely which of the mothers yet, but I'll work it out. And I think it might have been her, and so that means that they mated with these males. The males then know the females, and they know that these are their offspring, and therefore that's why they're not being aggressive towards these cubs in any way whatsoever. So, that's probably the reason. It happens quite often, and even if they might not genetically be their cubs, if they've mated with those females, they, in their minds, are the ones that produce them. So they're the ones that have kind of mated, and that's why females will go around and mate with different males. But what I can tell you is that these males are very, very, very accepting of these little cubs. Anytime a male has his mane pulled and his tail pulled by a cub and doesn't react aggressively, means that he's being very relaxed, and if it was a cub that he wasn't sure about, he would be quite aggressive towards it. And the problem with that is that if any male is aggressive towards a cub, just their sheer size and strength is always dangerous. One swat on a cub and it can break the back, or it can do some sort of damage to it. Now here comes another lioness. She's just arriving back. Is this the limping one? Yes, it is the limping one. So I'd imagine Kinky Tail should be back fairly shortly too. I'm hoping that she'll be back fairly shortly as well. Lauren, so you're asking, did they go for this buffalo because it doesn't have horns? The buffalo will have had horns at some point. They might have been broken or something like that, but they went for it because it was probably the softest target within the herd. Now, the herd of buffalo is actually not too far away from here, and there's a number of buffalo within that grouping that is looking quite skinny at the moment. It's quite dry and at this stage in the mara, and so some of the buffalo have lost condition, and so that's probably why they targeted it. If you look on the actual head itself, there is a spot there where it looks like the horn broke off. It's quite tricky to see it, but you'll see there's a sort of little tuft there where I think part of a horn broke off. It's also a younger animal, so the horns on this wouldn't have been very long at all, and so it would have been a softer target in comparison to a big bull buffalo. But you'll see that with the Nkahuma Pride as well. If they come across a herd of buffalo, they're going to try to target young and females before they'll charge in on the bulls. The big bulls are far more dangerous, and it's only when they're really desperate will they start to go after the big bulls. Now, can you hear the little ones fighting with each other? So one of the older cubs is growling at one of the younger ones, saying, "This is my piece of the buffalo, you go somewhere else." You can see little tails are flicking, and now Mom is also not very happy as well. No. Now, I believe you're not hearing it very nicely at all, so that's fine. It's like I say, a bit of growling. It's nothing major at this stage. It's not like when there's a small carcass and it's very tight around it. When you see lions on something like an impala, that's always, or warthog, that's when you get the most noise, because there really isn't much space, and then they fight a lot. Something like a buffalo, it's just low little grumbles every now and then that you get. But the cubs, I think, are making a nuisance of themselves and getting into all the wrong places and irritating the females a little bit, and so they'll show their teeth and growl a little bit just to say, you don't come here, you go somewhere else and feed in another spot. And so you'll find that they'll move there. The problem is with the little cubs is that their jaws are not strong enough to open the carcass in a different place, and so what they've got to do is they've got to eat where the females or the males have already opened, and at the moment that's obviously underneath the tail and around the fore legs and the back legs and the sort of stomach area, and if the females are there, then they don't really have much of a choice because they don't have strong enough jaws to tear open a tough hide of a buffalo. Oh, you've got a fly problem that you're trying to solve. I always love when they try catch flies. It's highly entertaining to watch these guys kind of try and go after it. Now you can see she's almost going to chew through the tail. Now this is a common thing to see with lions, is they often eat the tail quite early on, and they'll go after it and they'll try and kind of bite through it, and then they chew on that for quite some time. So most definitely, Rosalind, you'll find that buffaloes will injure lions quite regularly, and it's happened many times. A buffalo is an incredibly powerful animal. You must remember that these buffalo, some of them are weighing 600-700 kilograms, so it's almost 2,000 pounds of weight, and they've got big horns and a nasty temperament to match. And so when lions come close, they're going to do everything they can to try and protect themselves, and often that leads to bad injuries in lions. You can find big stab wounds from the horns going into the abdomen. I've seen a lioness killed where the horn went between her back legs and ripped all the way up to her front legs and disemboweled her completely. So it can happen. I've seen horns of buffalo go through their jaws, into their face, into their hips. So it's a very dangerous animal to hunt, and it's why most lions, if there's another opportunity to hunt other animals, that they'd rather go after that. So most lions would rather go after a wildebeest or a zebra. Far less risk than going after a buffalo. But the problem is when you've got 5 adult females, 2 big males and cubs, something like a wildebeest really isn't enough food. And so they have to start targeting these kind of things, as well as the fact that, remember, it's very seasonal here when it comes to mass amounts of food. In the months between sort of October and June, there is very few wildebeest around, and while there are some zebras, there's not a huge plethora of prey animals, and so buffalo forms probably the biggest portion of prey animals out here for a big group of lions like this, and so they have to start to specialize in bringing them down. In places like Djuma and things like that, where you've got big prides of lions, remember, I mean, this pride is considered quite big for the triangle. There's not many other prides that are massive here. You know, we've got obviously the Mara River pride, which is I think 14 of them. Or 12, I think, something like that. But here in this particular section, you know, we've obviously don't have huge prides like at Djuma. A pride of 11 or 15 have to target bigger things rather than animals like impalas and kudu and those kind of things. You'll have to have a situation where they have to sort of go after things like buffalo. Now, I believe that there's a few little gremlins creeping into our audio. I do apologize. Hopefully that will sort itself out fairly shortly and things will be a little bit better. So if there is a bit of breakup, I do apologize. Apparently it's sounding a little bit better. Louise, do I sound smooth now? I hope so. I hope I sound better. I don't want to sound as though I've got a frog in my throat and that I'm stuttering and stumbling over my words, which is, I suppose, general case for me anyway, and especially when I haven't guided for quite some time. Right, now we are going to quickly just switch into infrared. It's getting a little dark for even the ME20 to be able to cope with color, so you'll see it will change quickly into a IR image, so give us 2 seconds and it will come on shortly. It should come into effect shortly, but anyway, you can also see the lights in the background. That's Mara Ngai and Mara's son that's in the background at the moment, and the ranger station at the base of the hill. So it's kind of where we are. We're right down in the southwestern corner in the Sausage Republic, as David calls it, apparently. So I did enjoy his kind of comment on it. Now, sorry, it's just the infrared is being adjusted, so it will go quite bright. It'll sort itself out now. It might be that it's a little on the light side still for the really kind of serious infrared, so Manu's just going to try and get it all right. It's a different camera to what there we go. Did it almost hurt your eyes, Louise? Shame, did we blind you guys? Sorry about that, everybody, but there we go. We're back into the proper infrared now, and isn't that amazing? It's incredible how clear this image is on this camera. It's why we kind of use it at night, because of how crisp it is. Sorry, Louise, but you can just join Jamie in the sympathy club, where you can have sore eyes and she'll have a sore toe, and the two of you can sort of wallow in your pity and have a pity party together at dinner tonight. How about that? Or you can convince somebody to look after you guys and pamper you and bring you all the things that you want. Do you need eyes to do your work? Really? That's interesting. I didn't know. Given that we're a visual company, eyes, I suppose, are quite useful for one to kind of do work. But anyway, it's enough nonsense that we're speaking. It really is amazing technology these days. You think it's getting to the point where I can't even see these lines, and we're sitting not even 10 meters away. That's how dark it is at the moment. Yet you are seeing a crisp, clear image of a little cub playing with a buffalo's ear, and it is as clean as you could ever ask for. It really is incredible how technology is gone, and it makes you kind of think what will be around in 10 years' time if this is what we've got already in such a short space of time. Grace, do I think the males help to bring the buffalo down? No, and the reason why I say that is because when we first saw the females, 3 of them had blood dripping from their faces, down their chests, on their legs, fresh. And the males, when we arrived here, had nothing. They were clean. They had a little bit of blood on their feet as they were standing around the carcass, but otherwise they didn't look as though they had really done an inch of work. And so, if a male had been involved, there would have been blood around his mouth from where he had bitten to hold on. And so what I think is the females grabbed this, and the noise of that, the males came trotting over, who probably weren't very far away, maybe even had been lying with the pride, had not participated in the hunt, and they just came in, and maybe they just kind of pinned it down a little bit and sat there. But I think most of the work was done by the females, given the amount of blood that we saw on those females. That would be my guess. Obviously we don't know. You can see that male, you can see how useful he's being right now. It's about as useful as one could ever imagine. Leg in to one side, head back, and chill. That is how you do chill mode as a male lion. He's doing it as best he can, and doing a rather sterling job of it, isn't he? I think so. I think he's really kind of nailing it at this stage. But that's why I think that the females probably killed it and then the males came in. The nice thing is that this particular buffalo is not a massive buffalo. Had it been a big bull, then I would have expected the males would have probably been needed to help to be able to actually bring it down. But because it's a little, it's a smallish cow, I feel like the females probably had this covered. They would have been strong enough to pull this down, and I don't think this would have been a big fight. And that's why I'm quite sad, because I think this fight was actually going on while we were on drive this afternoon, and we just got here a little bit too late. But anyway, it's the way it goes, and it's good at least that the lions are getting a meal. Now I do wish right now that we had if we had smell-o-vision, that would be very nice right now, because we've just gotten to the point where they've opened the stomach now, and there's the smell of rumen, and it's a really distinct smell that you get when you're around a buffalo carcass, or a carcass in general, a very fresh one. And it's a smell that's not that unpleasant. I actually don't mind it that much, but it's kind of always know there's a carcass, a very fresh carcass, when you get this kind of grassy, meaty smell. It's a funny kind of smell that it has. Anyway, we're going to watch this lioness devour the tail. While we do that, it sounds like Brent Leo Smith has caught up with Hosanna, who is obviously missing a few patches of fur, and I'm glad that he's actually all right, given how bad that could have been.
Yes. Oh, there you go. It pays to be attentive, Hosanna. Watch out for lions. I don't think too many are around at the moment. And he doesn't seem to be looking like he's missing too much fluff or fur, from what I can see. But we're quite certain that he's been on a kill somewhere, and you can see that from his belly. And we thought he might be in this area. Probably the night of the big storm on Wednesday was when he caught something. And since then he's just been munching down, and he's now come out to have a drink and a snooze in the shade of a guarri and a peltiforum all together. And you see he is quite hot, breathing far more heavily than little Kalamba was. He's definitely attentive. Hopefully that lion run-in taught him a lesson. You can see him battling with the biting flies, his ears flicking away. See there, on his neck, Seb?
Yeah, where?
There, on his neck there.
Okay.
That's the patch of fur.
Yeah.
There's the missing patch of fur from his run-in with the lion. So, Carrie would like to know, will it grow back with the same spot pattern? Probably not. That looks like it's cut through the skin. It will grow back a little bit differently. However, if we had to shave Hosanna, the hair would grow back with the same patterns on it, all the same spots. He is very, very warm and very, very lethargic today. Firefly would like to know, is Hosanna done growing? Not by any means. He's probably only going to finish growing when he's closer to 5. Oh, where are you off to? You might, there's a little pan. You might go for another drink. Of course, he's going to drink so close. We can't see him. Let me just remove quickly. Here we go. Now, the reason there's thorn trees in this pan is because the elephants kept making it bigger, and it happens to be the road. So we've had the Juma guys put some thorn trees in it to try to stop the elephants making the pan bigger. Oh, he's thirsty. It's been a hot day, and when you've got a full belly, a nice quenching, cooling drink is in order. But a big thank you to James for finding Hosanna for us. We were hoping on the way we would find Tingana for him, but no such luck. Now, Andrew is wondering, do leopards shed like domestic cats? I suppose they do shed, but probably not as much as a domestic cat. I suppose it also just depends on the type of cat you've got. Okay, well, I'm going to continue to sit with the beloved little chief for a while longer. While I do that, we're going to send you all the way back to the Masai Mara to Tristan.
Well, enjoy, Brenty. I'm jealous in many respects because it's like Brent and I have changed places. Hosanna is a cat that I followed around all the way through the middle part and sort of latter part of the year, and he spent a lot of time with the Sausage Tree Pride, so we've kind of traded places at this stage. But there you see one of the little cubs having a bit of fun with one of the males. This is the darker maned of the two males. How cute is that? Isn't that very cool? It's super cute, I think so. Amazing that they're so tolerant of these little cubs, and you can see they're full of beans. They're around all over the place as they kind of move around. Now this one might go and mess around with the other male that was having a really nice sleep. His sleep is about to be interrupted very shortly because these guys love a good tail pull. Now, are you going to go and interrupt Dad? Look at that. Isn't that cool? How cute is that? That is very relaxed. Normally males are not as inclined to be kind of, well, allowing of cubs to jump on their head, but this male is just, well, he's so happy, he's just allowed that little one to jump on his back and then onto his head, and has just let it go. Now there's the other male, scent marking in the background. Careful, little one, you're about to be peed on. One must never walk behind a male lion when scraping his back legs. Now, what you can see from there, which is quite cool, is if you look at his testicles, which I know is a weird thing to look at a testicle of a lion, but you need to look anyway, because this male was in a very, very large fight, apparently, and he damaged one of his testicles, and so what you would have noticed there is that he only has one. He lost his other testicle, and the vets, when they fixed him up, because he had all this damage to his back leg area and was very badly injured, they had to remove one of his testicles. So he's only got one testicle. Now, whether or not that affects his mating is quite interesting, because obviously there's cubs in this pride, so now is it which male is actually producing them, and is it because of his kind of injury, is he not actually producing and therefore they mate with both, but actually the other one is the father? Who knows? Difficult to say, but there's definitely kind of only one testicle there. Apparently it was quite a bad injury that he had, and when he was a lot younger, and he's kind of developed and come all right with it, and he's now sort of recovered, but whether or not he's able to actually mate is obviously an interesting kind of question. But you can see the tail has been scoffed down. Last time you joined us, the tail was still slightly attached. That is no longer the case. It was eaten rather quickly, and so it's just the sort of end of the tail that's still lying around there. Now, I believe a lot of you are saying, ouch, poor guy, and glad that he's okay. Well, yes, that can never be a pleasant experience. I don't think anyone would like their testicle pierced by the canine or claw of another lion or hyena. I think that would be a very uncomfortable situation to have been in. But, he's okay now, so that's all good. Funny enough, we saw one of the Kichwa boys, the blonde male from the Kichwa boy that we saw the other day who was very sleepy. He's also obviously had a run-in with somebody as late, because he's got a torn testicle too. His testicle is actually, you can see a massive cut down the middle of it, which is it looks quite painful, and he was a little bit ginger when he was walking around. He was okay, his legs are okay, but his kind of testicle looks a little bit worse for wear. So it's obviously an area that they do get hit on, and that's why when you see lions fighting and kind of going and trying to kind of interact with others, is that they drop their back down. And same with for hyenas and leopard and even wild dogs, is that they'll try and drop that down, because that area is obviously the most sensitive, and they try and protect that as much as possible. So they'll try to put that on the ground and then fight, kind of turning on their bums and trying to swivel like that, rather than actually standing up straight, because otherwise they can get an injury like that towards that sort of area, which is obviously very unfortunate. Right, Lizelle, so we are now going to delve into the conversation that will go back and forth for eternity, and is something that is just different in different parts of the world. So you're asking, and this is a very pertinent question, given that you probably have seen a lot of us talking about the fact that a lot of the animals out here we don't, or in South Africa particularly, we will not interfere if it's caused by another animal. Here in Kenya, slightly different. So if they have any of their animals that are really, really badly injured, and particularly if it's an iconic species that they feel is something that needs to be protected, then they are treated. Whether it be a natural injury or a human-caused injury, they will treat it. So if there's a lion that gets involved in a huge fight and it's got a massive gash, then they'll come in and treat it. And their kind of outlook is that the number of animals within the world system, particularly something like a lion or elephant or something like that, has really decreased, and so they're going to do everything they can to make sure that their numbers within the system is looked after and is thriving, and that they're not unnecessarily losing animals that can be saved. So that's the outlook that they have, and they make sure that they try and protect their wildlife as much as possible. They see it as though it's their heritage, it's their duty to try and kind of make sure that wildlife is looked after, particularly because vast tracts of areas where these animals have occurred previously are now inhabited, and therefore the populations and the number of animals, they don't have an ability to move around as much as they did, and their numbers aren't as prevalent as what they were, and so every single one kind of in their eyes counts. Whereas in South Africa, they take a bit of a different view and different stance, and especially within the Kruger Park system, because of how large it is. Their thing is that nature will take its course, and the population within the Kruger system is so stable that they don't need to worry too much about particularly things like lions and the likes, and so that's why they have that policy. It's just different in different places. It's not only Kenya that has this policy. You'll see it in quite a lot of East Africa. And it's very dependent on the species. So you often will see with things like gorillas and stuff, there will be treatment even if it is a natural injury, just because those species are so threatened. And that's why. So it's a big debate that rages whether or not it should be done that way on either side. Obviously, there's a lot of flack that the South African side takes for not helping animals. A lot of people deem it to be irresponsible that we, because we've destroyed so much of their habitat, and the fact that, we should be looking after nature. And then there's obviously the reality of it. For me, and this is my personal opinion, is that, that animal theoretically might not have had the strongest genetics, and when you get these interactions between animals, particularly in areas with stable environments and stable populations, there is a definite kind of ideology that genetic gene pools, the strongest will survive, and that is always good for the genetics of that particular species. And if it wasn't strong enough to survive, then obviously it succumbs, and that then forms a part of the food chain. It will decompose, various insects and animals will feed off it. Nutrients will go back into the soil, and the life cycle will continue. Whereas if we end up, let's say hypothetically, we fixed a male lion, and he ended up then living longer than he was supposed to. He then goes into a new area, kills all the cubs. The knock-on effect is huge. So you never can really know. But I understand both arguments and hear both sides, and it's a tricky one. You've got to be. I think you've got to just use your head a little bit, and there's certain areas where it definitely pays for animals to be looked after a lot more, and to interference to be had, even if it's a natural thing. And there's other areas where population are thriving, and nature can take its course. The other problem that we obviously have in this modern day world is that a lot of these kind of things end up on social media, in various platforms, and there's a lot of public pressure on a lot of people to do things when it comes to wildlife. And so it's a very tricky thing for a lot of these conservation areas and the people that manage them to balance this whole thing, and it's really not easy when there was an incident a while back with a male lion called the Styx male, and talking about earlier getting injured by a buffalo, he was injured by a buffalo bull, and his back right hip was completely dislocated. He was dragging it around, and he then tried to rejoin his pride, and there was a very aggressive response to him. They had new cubs at that point, and they didn't really want him back, and they ended up attacking him and ripping his whole eye where his eyelid was hanging. And he just lost condition badly, and there was a huge outcry about it. People phoned the SPCA, people phoned all kinds of things. The Sabi Sands had a really tricky time of it. I think they received something like 2,000 emails in an hour just regarding this lion, and they had the SPCA at the gates trying to get in and trying to kind of execute warrants, and it was all kinds of nonsense that went on. And ultimately, the animal died ultimately the animal died. Exactly, 2,000 emails. It was a bit hectic, but it was crazy. I remember the whole thing, and the reason why I remember it is because I was the first one to post a photo of this male lion in the condition that he was in, and it kind of caused a bit of a stir. And anyway, and even myself, I got threats from all kinds of people that I'm a disgusting human and should be thrown in jail and should be executed, was actually my favorite one, because I'm sitting watching an animal and taking a photo of it rather than helping it. And quite frankly, it's quite ridiculous when you get things like that, because unless you've actually worked out here and you've spent time out here and you know animals, it's quite rich to sit from many miles away and say things like that. And it was actually a very nasty thing. It went on for days, and I like I said, got all kinds of hate mail about it. And anyway, but ultimately that animal even when he died and they did a post-mortem, there was nothing that the vets could have done for him. He died within a day after those. Well, it wasn't a day; it was a few days later. But he died a natural death. And he was then eaten a little bit by hyenas, and then the vets did a post-mortem, and there was his hip and stuff was too destroyed for them to have done anything, and they would have just put him down anyway. And so, we had all kinds of things where we must feed him and we must look after him, and at the end of the day, these are wild animals. And the mange incident of 2016 also comes to mind. The influence that we would have, and the kind of interruptions that we would have to treat that all the time would be far worse for that animal, and it would just not be a kind of solution to what was going on. I understand, like I say, in places where populations are smaller and decreasing, sure, try and control that and try and get that right, and it's needed in certain areas because of the threats that a lot of these animals face. But in stable populations, it's, for me, I think letting the animals live and let them do their thing is part and parcel, and ultimately we don't know the effects of treating animals and changing the dynamics going forward. There's obviously very real kind of implications when you tinker with nature, as we know, with anything in nature, from global warming to all of these kind of things that take place. So yeah, that's a very long-winded answer to your question, but hopefully it kind of answered the things that you need to talk about, well, that you were wondering, and hopefully you'll take good from it. And like I say, I'm not a monster that doesn't want animals or that wants animals to suffer, but it's a part and parcel of being out here. Stacey, good distraction from that heavy conversation, but do I know whether these cubs are male or female? Stacey, if I'm honest with you, for half an hour, have you lost my word? Now, I'm not sure if my audio is working very well. We're just trying to check it. Okay, it's all working now, which is good. So, sorry, I was getting into that whole thing. Good. Okay, Louise, if you can hear me, that's good. Manu can hear me, so we're in the right track. So, sorry about that. In terms of cubs, to be honest, I don't know. I haven't spent enough time with them to know. The first time I'm seeing them is this afternoon. Manu says to me he thinks they're all males, so I'm not 100% sure. I'll try double check now. It's impossible in this light to check, but maybe tomorrow morning will be a good option. If there's still any of this carcass left, I don't imagine they'll move very far from here, even if they finish. I don't think they'll go far, but that'll be a good opportunity. But I haven't, like I say, I haven't been able to. I got so excited when I got here that it was just a bit overwhelming, and then we had to do some non-live stuff that's like Brent is doing with Hosanna, and that meant that we were shooting all of that kind of thing and had to concentrate on that. And so I actually haven't really had a chance to look carefully. Haven't really had a careful enough look at them. But Louise is telling me that the youngest cub is definitely a male. Manu says he thinks they're all males, so I don't know. I'll try and check the next time I'm with them, or go through some footage and try and have a little look. I will tell you one thing, is that of them, there's one that is incredibly curious, because we were busy filming our stuff earlier, and it came wandering all the way up to my door and just looked at me, as if to say, who are you and what are you doing here? I don't recognize you. You're not Brent, and you're not Gigi, and you're not Steve, so what are you doing here? And kind of looked at us for a while, sat next to us, scratched its tummy, looked around, lay down, and then decided, no, we were very boring, and went off, and then went and messed around with the males. Now that is definitely a little male, that one. How cool is this, though? Dad, you're very tolerant. That is awesome. Very, very cool. Right, now from one very playful, very full of nonsense cat to another very playful cat down in South Africa, Brent is still with Hosanna.
Well, he's not in the mood for playing. He's hot. He's got a full belly full of some poor unfortunate antelope, and now he's also full of water. But, well, he might have heard something. No. False alarm. Hosanna, false alarm. He's had a few close shaves in his young life. Apart from the lion, the closest shave I've seen Hosanna have was with wild dogs. Very close to Treehouse Dam. when he was a little kitty. Oh, shame. Well, obviously, he managed to succeed in eating his whole kill this time without his dad disappearing with a portion of it. I mean, I think we're about ready to see Tingana again, hopefully for James's sake. Because after the rain, he's going to be on a big mission. Re-scent marking. And for now, Hasana has been left alone. I'm sure he's quite happy about that. Bernick is wondering if he was to be on bushwalk and met Hasana 50 meters away, would he try attack? No. We've spent quite a lot of time with Hasana on bushwalk. Well, if you started bleating and rolling around on the ground like an injured animal, he might. But as a general rule, no, he won't. Leopards in this part of Africa don't really become man-eaters too frequently. It's far more infrequent that they do. Other parts of the world, such as India and other parts of Africa, leopards are far more likely to become man-eaters, and that's mostly because they have a shortage of natural prey due to human beings eating it all up or turning wildlife into farmland. And leopards are very adaptable cats, and a human being is a very dangerous prey. Where are we going, fat boy? I'm wondering if he's not going back to a kill. He might still have some meat left somewhere. He's just so fat after having a drink at the closest puddle or pan. He's now going back because the direction he's heading is up onto the crest. And we thought he might be on a kill somewhere, and that's the reason we hadn't seen him for a couple of days. Hello, my man. You're getting so big. You're not being very stealthy, Hasana. He's standing on all the branches, making all the noise. And he's not trying to be stealthy with his fat belly. He's just having a little urination. No attempt at scent marking, interestingly enough. Well, actually, I wonder. Well, hopefully he leads us back to a carcass, because that means we'll know exactly where he's going to be tomorrow. I've kept looking at all the big marulas around, trying to see if I can see any legs dangling. So there's a couple of nice trees for him to have stashed a kill in. Oh dear, I feel incredibly guilty now that James had to give me his leopard and he went to look for little Shalamba, but obviously she's moved on. So let's go see what his next plan is.
She has not only moved away, but we also didn't have any signal there, so we didn't look for a huge amount of time, but she does seem to have moved off. Anyway, you know, I'll get my own back on Leah Smith eventually. We are getting down towards the southeastern corner of Juma, and we're going to see if we can find some tracks of Tingana, the Great Duke, aged almost 13. You can believe it. I don't see why we shouldn't find him. Set our minds to it. put our thoughts out into the universe. I must just stop here quickly because there's a great deal of shouting going on, and that shouting seems to be coming from a number of territorial Coqui francolins. Can you hear that? Chee, 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 chee. Another one. And a very beautiful artistic sky. Well done, David. Yes. On we go. That is the Coqui francolin. There's also lovely pinkness over the western horizon, over the Drakensberg. Let's drive a little bit faster so we have some daylight in which to search. I'm afraid my communications with Louise are from the toilet at the moment. Louise, sorry, can you go again with that? Oh, you want to see the sky. Yes? Ah, Tom, you said a wicked sky. Yes, thank you. Shut up, Louise. Thank you very much. It's not your fault or mine. It is a technical glitch. Louise is shouting at me now, talking to me like I'm an imbecile, which I might be, but it's not very fair. It is a wicked sky, Tom. This is called a rolling shot. Sorry about the wonky horizon. There's nothing David can do about that. It is very beautiful. In fact, we've had lots of great sunrises and sunsets of late because of the amount of cloud in the atmosphere. I can't tell you the great deal about mammal goings on at the moment. You might be able to hear me hitting a fly that is trying to climb into every hole on my face, somehow managing to catch up with the car. Very irritating. There's another Coqui francolin going there. Wick, 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 wick. Wick, 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 wick. Anyway, I'm going to continue my headlong dash for the southern boundary. No, Cal 6, you're absolutely correct. You say I don't seem to have much luck with females. You said Louise or Siri. Those are just the tip of the iceberg of females that I don't have any luck with. Tlalamba, one of the others. And well, throughout my history there have been a succession of epic failures, really. Another Coqui francolin shouting here. This one doing the other call. Coqui, 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 coqui. That's a terrifically bad impression of a Coqui francolin. Let's just see if we can see it, because they are the most beautiful francolins. The males look like their heads have been dipped in molten gold. Now Louise is so loud I can't hear myself think. Okay, I've got it right now. Yes, she does. That's absolutely right. Thank you, R. Laura Moore. My mother does indeed love me. She is very kind. She has managed to look over and above all my myriad faults and still find some kernel that she can attach love to. Let's go back across to the Mara now.
Indeed, and I'm glad that your mother loves you, James. That's a very good thing to have, because it would be quite sad if she didn't. Everybody, deserves to have a mother that loves them, so I'm glad that that's the case for you, James, and, I'm pretty happy that you are content in that relationship. But anyway, our lions, well, they woke up and they heard James, and then now they've gone back to sleep again, and, You can see they sitting, and the lionesses are sleeping. What was interesting though was Kinky Tail just now. She got up and she kind of moved from the carcass, from feeding a little bit. She's lying there at the back, and she went towards both males, head rubbed on them, greeted them, and then walked off. And it's almost as if just to make 100% sure that these guys know that this is, no one must be aggressive towards the cubs. It's almost as though she's taken it on herself to kind of just make sure that the relationship with those males is continued, and that the bond is strengthened rather than weakened, and that there's no untoward feelings that happen within them. So it's very interesting. She's obviously the most experienced female within this group, and the way that she's kind of gone towards those males is almost as if to say she's going to just make sure that they know that this is the right pride and that they need to not worry. The interesting thing with her as well is, as she was walking away, she definitely kind of looks as though, she's eaten. But Manu was saying to me that she's mated not so long ago with these, a few weeks ago with these males, and her tummy is kind of dangling a little bit, and I wonder if maybe she's going to be the next one. There's definitely apparently one that was heavily pregnant, and she's not here, so I wonder if she hasn't given birth somewhere close by, and then maybe Kinky Tail's going to be the next one that will have cubs. Can you imagine if all 5 females have cub? How cool that will be. It will be very, very, very nice to kind of see the pride like that. And the good thing with that would be, if they do have cubs, is because it's kind of staggered a little bit, it's going to keep them in a very kind of centralized spot for quite a long time. They're going to stay around in a certain area as the cubs start to grow, and you can imagine how amazing it would be. Imagine if we have sort of 10 or 12 cubs running around with these guys. It would be quite something, and it would be very nice to see. Obviously, it would be great if the Sausage Tree pride does grow. They're such an intriguing pride to follow. The only other ones that really kind of, I would imagine, sort of match them in size in terms of what we were talking about earlier is the Mara kind of river pride, and then obviously the Olololos, which is a big pride. But the Olololos, as far as I understand it, talking to some of the Ngama guys and Adam and the rest of them that work there, they were saying to me that there almost seems as though there's a bit of a split that's taken place already, and there sort of seems to be 5 that hang around together, and then there's the others that have splintered off, and so they don't seem to hang around as much. They said they do come together and apart, but they don't really spend all their time together, and unfortunately that's the case that happens when prides get very, very large, particularly in an ecosystem that's so reliant on a seasonal activity like the migration. It's very difficult outside of that. When I was here in May, there was so little food for a lot of the predators. There was obviously a lot of buffalo around, but there was very few eland, topi, tommies, wildebeest, zebra, in fact almost nothing. And we saw the cheetahs really having to go long stretches to try and find food, and the lions themselves had to hunt buffalo or they wouldn't have eaten, or warthogs. Buffalo and warthogs were probably the only things that they could eat. And so that becomes very difficult to grow massive prides. But if they get the technique of being able to hunt a buffalo right, then the pride can grow and grow and grow, and they'll be able to find the food that they need. So it's vitally important that these little ones learn and they grow into this pride. Bev, I suppose you're talking about in Africa or worldwide. If you're talking about worldwide migrations, really big ones. Well, the biggest mammal migration in Africa is actually bats in Zambia, in Kasanka. There's a huge bat migration that takes place there. It's something that I haven't seen yet, but I really do want to go and see. I think Brent's been before, so he'll be in a better position to comment about it. But it apparently is unbelievable. I've seen footage of it and photos. It really is quite incredible. And if you have a phobia for bats, probably you think I'm mad. But I believe it's an amazing thing to see. So that's a really big migration that takes place within sort of the African continent. Then there's the biggest zebra migration takes place in Botswana, and there's the migration from the Naipans area into Makharakadi up to the Bateti River, and then upwards into the Delta area. So that's a huge migration that takes place of zebra, and like I say, more zebra than actually moves here in East Africa. Here's got the biggest wildebeest migration, and then biggest migration of large mammals, but the Botswana one is as far as I understand it, the biggest zebra migration. But they kind of move around there, and then there is a migration of I think it's a white-tailed cob that takes place in Sudan. There's a migration of animals there, and then obviously huge bird migrations that take place. Wahlberg's eagles, buzzards, steppe eagles, a myriad of different birds that kind of end up migrating. Swallows. Now let's watch. Is that the one that's limping? It's not Kinky Tail. I wanted to see if it was Kinky Tail would go towards those males again, but it doesn't seem to be the case just yet. Where is she gone now? Is she feeding again? It's difficult to kind of see them in this grass with this infrared. It's amazing how well they actually blend in. There's the two boys, they're by themselves. He's facing the opposite way now, tired of showing us his face. So yeah, a number of different migrations, and then obviously worldwide there's a lot of migratory things that take place, and probably the biggest one that I would like to go see is the elk migration in the Arctic. I think that would be quite something. Anyway, while we kind of think about migrations and think about all the other ones, let's send you back across to James, who's sort of still in the southeast. I'm sure he's still looking for Tingana, but I think he's looking at something else in the meantime.
Well, what we have here, of course, is an Egyptian goose family, and yes, we were hoping desperately to find Tingana, but Tingana has not appeared. His tracks have not appeared. No one shouting in alarm at him have appeared, and so we have got some Egyptian geese goslings, hopefully more skillful parents than the ones that live at Buffelshoek Dam. They certainly look slightly more attentive. Just suggesting a little evening swim or bath, maybe. They're just enjoying themselves with a little bit of algae and muck for supper. Some delicious algae and muck for supper. I wonder to myself, when a bird is born, how does it know what to eat? I suppose parents must play a role in mentoring them to a certain extent. It is difficult to imagine the lessons on culinary Egyptian goose art from the Egyptian goose parents. They're so sweet. Do we know how many there were? I know Jamie was here, when was it, a few days ago. I'm not sure how many there were there. Those little dots you can see in the background are a whole group of naughty little baby hippos that have climbed out the water. It's very sweet. They've decided they no longer wish to wait for Mum and Dad. They want to go exploring now. It's very funny. Now, I'm going to guess and say I think it's the female in the water and the male outside. Just because he's slightly bigger. He seems to be trying to tell them to come out. No, now he's having a little drink himself. Come in, Dad. It's so lovely in here. No, come on. It's time to go home. Look at them all having their little swim. Those are water thickneys there, and you can hear the hippopotami giving its stick in the background. And as I've said in those SABC shows, the sound of hippopotamus shouting at one another is really such a quintessential sound for so many of us who've been to the bush as kids or as adults. It's such a reminder that you're out in the bush when you hear that sound. Likewise, but most people don't know they're listening to it actually, the water thickney, which makes its very strident whistling. I'm sure one of them will do it for us now. There you go. You hear the whistle there of the water thickney? Another one going now. There you are. Okay, I think we should press on from here. We're going to continue on our way back towards Juma and see if we can get lucky. Jonathan, the only defense against snake attacks for those little goslings is to get in the water and swim, which of course they can do. They are able to swim from as soon as they plummet out of their nests. I'm not sure how many of you know this, but when they are ready to fledge, well, they don't actually fledge, they just fall out of the nests. and then, I mean, some distance. Their nests are up in trees, and they just plummet to the ground, and eventually have to kind of waddle and follow the parents to the water. There was a nest actually over the water at one stage here. We never saw the goslings hatch. In fact, it looked like the eggs were not going to hatch, but there was one, and maybe that's an easier way for them to live. David, your infrared light is on. Did you know that? No, you didn't. Oh, nice to tell you something you didn't know. Let us continue along here, try and miss the rather nasty here if you're not very careful. But no sign of any alarm calling or sawing from the Tingana. They didn't know where he is. He's certainly expanding his range. He's probably on a little baby impala kill or something like that. Alrighty, let's go to his son up north, heading north, unfortunately, towards the Buffalook boundary with Brent Leo Smythe.
Oh, hello. Sorry, I've got no comms. Can we try again? I've got no comms. Nothing. Okay. Well, we're live. Sebastian's going to have to talk to me. I'm just going to play with this thingy a bit. We're still with Hosanna. He's taken us on quite the ride from where James found him. We've probably done nearly a kilometre now through some quite thick bush. As I say, I think he might be taking us back towards where he might have a kill. Because in this heat, there's no real other reason for him to be moving this much, especially since he was right next to the water. Okay. Louise, can you try to talk to me again, please? Okay. I've got Louise back. I've got comms back. So we're actually quite close to the northern boundary now. We've been moving through the thickets, sticking with our little chief. We have to do some more maneuvering now. But it's so hot, he walks a little bit, then he has a nap, then he walks a little bit, then he has a bit of a lie down. But the temperature is dropping, but oof, it's still, I would guess, over 30 degrees Celsius now, even though it's dark. We're getting very, very close to the northern fire break. Still listening quite intently. Costa would like to know, at what age will a young male leopard seek a territory of his own? Well, what happens normally is he will be pushed out of his territory by the dominant male, which is, there's a strong possibility, is his father. And then he will wander till he's big enough to challenge another dominant male. So normally at about 4 to 5 years old at the youngest, normally between 5 and 6 will they become dominant. Okay, let's keep up with them again so we don't lose them in this thick stuff. Now that is the one benefit of it being quite dry, is you can actually see a bit further than you would be able to in the height of summer when the grass is green and long. Well, I suppose we are in the height of summer, we just haven't had rain this year. Let's just try to find a gap through here. just lost sight of him now. Okay, I'm going to try and find him again quickly. While we do that, let's send you back to Commander Bond, who's at Twin Dams.
Yes, I'm now at Twin Dams, arriving back on Juma, on my way home. The smell of beef in my nostrils as I think about supper. Unfortunately, no sign of any leopard. Much sound from the cicadas, shouting their heads off, as they are wont to do at this time of the year. We have one little turn down Elephant Carcass Road, which is just north of where we are now. Let's see if we don't get lucky. For those of you, I know I've said this before, but sometimes we get new viewers. If you do want to see where we are, we do mention the road names and that sort of thing quite often. The Google map for this area has all of the names on it. So if we talk about Twin Dams Road or Elephant Carcass Road, well, you'll be able to see exactly where we are. Fear me, I've tweaked a bit of a muscle in my shoulder today. I have to have an extended lie down for about 3 weeks when I get home. Certainly some drugs to make it better. We shall keep searching though, don't worry everybody. We will keep looking to the bitter end. All of it, 5 minutes. Yes, Louise, we can try and find a chameleon. We can definitely do our level best to find a chameleon. They should be out round about now. I haven't seen one for some time. But it would be nice to be the first to get the first summer chameleon. We shall look on the end of the bushes for the fluorescent shine of a chameleon's skin. Yes, Anna-Marie, it would be nice to see a bush baby. Frankly, at this stage, Anna-Marie, it would be very nice to see any mammal whatsoever. But yes, a bush baby would be delightful. We'll try for one of those. Yes, we did see a pregnant impala. Yeah, it was fantastic. What a sighting that was. I suppose we did find Hosanna, but then we had to hand him over to Jon Brendleo Smith. But we will do our best, as always. I can't bring myself to go into a discussion again of the creatures that we could see at night. Cal 6, you say, why don't I smoke some elephant dung? Sydney says it helps with the pain. I think I'm just going to go with ibuprofen, if it's all the same to you. I think the task of finding some elephant dung, setting it to fire and breathing it in, coughing, spluttering, getting almost certainly a violent sinus headache, would probably defeat the purpose. I suspect the violent sinus headache would probably, as a nightjar, the violent sinus headache would probably reduce the pain. No, yes, it is the nightjar. You said that, Dave?
Yeah, it just flew off.
And it flew off. There's something small in there, exactly where I've got my light. No, little to the right of that. I think it's a cat. Are we infraredding? It's infrared. The UX 180 we don't have to worry about being ready for. I'm just going to roll back. There's some eyes in there, everybody, and I don't know what that is. Somewhere in there. But whatever it is hiding from us, as everything else has today. Oh well. Can also, if I'm very quiet, you'll be able to hear the last call of the ground hornbill. You hear it? Apparently you couldn't hear it. I'm sorry about that. Jigger's fan is making too much noise. Naughty Jigger. There we go. I was quite excited about that. I thought it might be an African wildcat. But I don't know for sure. But possibly just a terrified duiker. Right, well, one more road to drive. See if we get lucky on. In the meantime, we are not going to travel with me in my misery. Let's go back to Brentley Smith and his triumph with Hosanna.
Well, Hosanna has stopped moving. Is that a kill on the ground? There's some meat here. I think it must have fallen out of the tree. It doesn't look like much. Baby impala possibly, by the looks of things, almost all gone. I'd say this is actually, it's fallen out of the tree. He might take it up a tree. No, he might not. What are you doing? So we knew he had a kill just judging from his belly. He's probably been snacking on plenty baby impala over the last while. But he should be in, he might not be here tomorrow morning. There's almost nothing left. Oh, Hosanna, you clumsy oaf. He's going to lie on the branch and chew. What a wonderful way to end the sunset safari. We will see you all bright and early tomorrow morning for the sunrise safari. Hopefully there will be many, many cats, and I'm hoping a few dogs as well. But for now, Hassan is going to enjoy his meal, and we're going to say good night.